Uh, my apologies for the late start. I came down with a bug over the weekend and my alarm didn't go off. um, so, anyway, let me just set this up so that we can get caught up. And we already skipped over a morning delay, so here we go.
Will counsel stipulate, please?
Yes, Judge. Yes.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We continue with the state case.
Yes, sir.
Good morning. And you are still under oath, Detective Kimball.
Yes, sir.
Attorney McGinnis.
Detective Kimball, good morning.
Morning, sir.
Detective Kimball, I believe where we left off in the video on Friday, you were discussing with the defendant the timelines. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And also discussing the conversation between Pavel Gumini, the defendant, and Mr. Dulos the week after Jennifer Dulos disappeared. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And Judge, just for the record, we had paused the video on Friday at 3:04:42. We're going to pick it back up at 3:04:32 because that was as close as we could manage it.
Thank you.
Works. Yeah, I wanted to include taking a shower together.
But then he went back and I said, I didn't do it.
Well, why did you tell us all this information? Some of it's true, a lot of it's true, a lot of the stuff you went to stop shop. You did go see, drop the purse, we know all that.
Yes, okay.
Trying to understand why you told us information that was false. You did so on purpose.
Maybe because I wasn't told, because of
Not
all
maybe
this,
because-
no, because of all this, because obviously Fotis wrote that and he said, you have to say that.
Shai told us just now that Fotis told you put the keys right to the Tacoma.
When we were talking about it, that he was writing down, he said it out loud,
Who
you
said
told
out loud?
it out loud. He said it, he said
Okay.
it out loud,
You said that loud.
no, out loud.
So Fotis told you that you took the keys.
Yes.
So when,
Just going to pause it at 3:05:40. As part of this discussion, the defendant is indicating now that she spoke with Mr. Dulos about what to write in the timelines. Is that correct?
That's correct.
I want to direct your attention to the June 6, 2019 interview. Did the subject of the timelines come up during that interview?
They did, yes.
And was the defendant, strike that, did the defendant indicate during that interview whether or not Mr. Dulos had told her what to say or whether or not he had any input into her timeline?
She did indicate whether or not he had said,
And what did she say about that?
she said he had not.
did you take the keys to the Tacoma? So, yeah,
It was me that did, I don't
you know,
know.
Howard, you only seem to give us information when you're asked, so you're about to be asked. Wait for me to find it. It's just Pavel's truck. Did you ever hear of something called luminol? Luminol is something we use to look at evidence, see if blood was somewhere. When it hits the blood, it illuminates. So that's where your boyfriend wanted to have sex with you on the side of the door of the car. Where do you think that belongs to? Who do you think that belongs to? And this is, and he wants to do what? With the door open. So apparently Jennifer's blood makes it important. So if you know stuff that you're not telling us, that's the man you're protecting. That's the shit.
I said, and I really don't wanna say everything.
I understand that, but it's no more.
I don't know, I'll tell you.
Just going to pause it at 3:06:52. Did you tell the jury what Detective Clabby showed the defendant?
Detective Clabby showed the defendant a photograph of the inside of the passenger door of the Tacoma, which had a reaction to luminol, positive reaction.
And Detective Clabby sort of hints that perhaps the luminol is reacting to Jennifer Dulos' blood. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
But in fact, there were no DNA results on that door linked to Jennifer Dulos, correct?
That is correct, yes.
Is that an example of a false evidence ploy?
It is, yes.
And then you said, apparently Jennifer's blood makes him horny. Detective, would you agree that that is an emotionally charged comment?
Absolutely.
Why did you make that comment?
It was designed to be emotionally charged because the statement by Detective Clabby just prior to that is she only gives us information when she gets angry. That statement was basically designed to get a strong emotional reaction out of her. And she in fact did give us more information following that statement.
At this stage of the interview, did you still have concerns that she was withholding information from you?
Absolutely, yes, we did.
That he was asking for a paper towel to clean coffee, and it wasn't, but I don't know that it wasn't. But I didn't see no coffee either, it's true what you're saying. And he gave me the paper towel to put it in the garbage.
So Michelle, timeline thing, everything. You know more. This is the man you were protecting. I get if you wanted to, or you get.
I don't want to protect him at all.
Get if you wanted to.
I want,
Get if you wanted to. But
okay, but I don't know if, like, I have no idea what happened to Jennifer. I have no idea where Jennifer is, and that's 100%. I just know that I went as the stupid girlfriend to help him out because he told me, come and clean the house, and I did. Come, let's go to Starbucks. And I did, and in the way to Starbucks, we ended up, what? We ended up, he said, okay, let me throw the construction bags. Yes, I saw that videos, there's no construction inside those bags at all, or at least I didn't see any.
okay, then why did you leave Hartford out of your script?
I didn't finish my first, if you see it, I had it until like 5:10. I received a call from Enterprise because I had to leave the car to the body shop, the Suburban that had crashed like 2 weeks ago. And I had a meeting already with Davidson, and Enterprise called me to say, because they had to give me a car, a rental car, like the new one. So I said, guys, I have to leave. And before then, my sister also called. So I left. My what's it called? The timeline it wasn't even finished.
So is it complete?
It was incomplete.
You didn't ever complete it?
No, it's there. It's what you have.
I think that.
Then I have done a timeline. I've done timeline since Monday 20th all the way to Friday 31st.
You saw Fotis in his car, please.
Yes.
How did you see him when you said that?
No, he asked for paper towels because he feels something.
But
And
then
then
did
when I
you
was
realize?
coming out, he was walking, like turning and walking.
Well, now you know what he was thinking.
Okay, I didn't know. I know now. I didn't know. He told me coffee. And so that morning, I took the Suburban. I drove to Chevrolet. So they knew about my crush. And we had all the papers. There was an issue. And I don't know if you want to know the story. I don't know what else to tell you.
Shut the sorry. So bicycle. So Fotis has or had bikes? Still have it?
I have 3 of them. 4 of mine.
The old one that you
No, I
kept?
didn't say that.
And that was normally kept where? At Fort Jefferson?
Yeah, it's for Jefferson.
Okay, what color was it? You remember?
I don't know why I think it's either brown, dark gray.
Was it a racing bike, like a
It
10
was
or?
street by old, very old.
Okay. Good shape, bad shape, good.
For a long time, it wasn't, I don't think it even, I never noticed, I don't know if it works. And I know Abel changed the tires and it didn't work.
Okay, when did he change the tires?
No, this was months ago.
Months ago? Okay, so then you saw the bike at 80 Mountain Spring.
Yes.
Was it ever, had you ever seen it at 80 Mountain Spring before?
No, but I don't go to any mountain.
Do you have any idea how it lasted 80 Mountain Spring?
No.
Sorry, did you say what color it is?
I believe it was like brownish, not, how do you say, okay, it's not gold, like brown, not bronze, or
That was
dark.
an old one, right?
Yes, gold.
Yeah.
Like, he said that he had it since he was 18.
And where would he keep it at?
Usually, we had all the bicycles in the second garage,
Hanged up like one of this?
yes.
So was it kept in here? Was it kept amongst these bikes?
So that would be hanging, usually there's more racks here in this block.
Okay.
So if there's like an air conditioner or something, I think there,
Above the bikes?
yes.
Like on these hooks?
In this hook.
So normally that bike's here, but it's not.
No, but not in this hook.
Those are
This is
the
the
only
door?
ones.
No, yes, up here,
Yeah, you walk in the door's on your left, there's a bunch of tools, right in front of you is all the ones.
exactly. So in the opposite.
So would we have to walk around this corner?
No, here, like on top of these.
So come on,
There's
the
an
bike portion.
air conditioner or something.
So the bikes are here,
They
it's gonna be
have-
above them,
Yeah.
but on the same wall.
Yes. So I have, the white ones are mine.
So they have no white strips?
That one's mine, I have it.
Is the old ones have a curly handlebar like that? Or does it have a straight handlebar like that?
No, I think it was.
You know, you got the straight handlebar
Yes,
and you got the ones
I think it was.
curly.
I think, I'm pretty sure, but I never wrote that one. Like, I thought it never worked until Pavel said that he fixed it.
Not this particular bike, but is this brand of bike? This is a Mercier. Is
But
this
that's
one?
not the five. It
Does-
was dark.
Okay, again, not this particular bike, this brand.
I don't know, is that a good brand?
Just asking if you recognize the brand.
I don't recognize the brand, but it was supposed to be a good bike. Yes, it looks like that, but old. It was like from 20 years ago.
But you don't see it in this picture.
No.
Is there any more detail? Because every time we ask you, there seems to be more that you have that you can give us in regards to that entire day, the entire week.
Then he asked me to go to, he didn't even ask, he said, let's go to Starbucks. I did many things. I cooked up pasta, red sauce for it, with the parsley I bought that morning. And while we were driving to Starbucks, he passed Starbucks. I said, Starbucks is here. And he said, no, let me go past him. Let me throw this past. Okay. We get to that area. At some point, we turn right. We go to one of the streets that is open. And there's like a long brick condo or whatever building low. He turns back, he gets into that main road that I saw the videos. And then he drops the bus.
So it would be right up there.
Second here.
Yeah, okay, so it would hang somewhere in that photo.
Usually what I'm here.
So it's not there. I want to ask about, I want to ask you about your washer. Did you ever find anything in there? After this happened, was there anything in there that should have been there that was abnormal or out of place?
Friday 31st, the washing machine technician came. To fix the one going into the left, the washer, and he found, and he showed me, I was with my mom, a piece of metal or plastic that he found in the, I don't know, not the machine, or the engine of the washer, and that's why the water wasn't draining.
All right, so it broke.
Yes, the washer was, but he fixed it.
You ever found a strange, like a bucket or anything in your washer?
A bucket. Well, the guy brought a bucket to drain the washing machine.
Okay, when he came on the 31st,
Yes.
prior to that? Nothing that you saw?
No. I mean, the buckets of the house, but I don't
Just curious.
Can we, something that I think is important. The police came to the house on Friday night. Okay, why don't you tell the officers what Fotis was like that evening with you, who he was talking to,
Okay, that's,
and the whole weekend?
yes, the police, I see a police car coming. I start from the window, the second floor. I tell Fotis, the police is here. He goes, he opens the door. I only saw one guy, I don't know if there were two, I only see one. And they start talking, I went inside the room. And then he probably was there maybe 15 minutes. I don't think that much, but I don't know if that's. And then Fotis says, I'm like, what happened? And he said, that Jennifer's visits in 7. And they came to see if I saw her, if she was here, if they were checking. And I said, what? What do you mean that she disappeared? And he said, don't worry, she started in the past. She went to Aspen and she changed her name 20 years ago.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
I'm
Okay.
telling you what he told me.
Yep, that's fine.
And I'm like, wow. It's like, so what? She disappears and she said, well, she started in the past, but she got upset with her parents. Okay. Then he started calling lawyers. And he went to the office because that's where the best signal of the house. He speaks with the police. The police, I guess, asked him. Then at some point he says, can you please tell the nanny to pick up the phone because she's not picking the phone. I guess the police called Lauren. And at some point, Fotis talks to Lauren, and they say that they're in New York, that Cristian is whatever. And I said, I have to go because I have to pick up Nicole, because Nicole, I had to pick her up 9 or 9:14. And he said, no, I'll come with you. Which for me, like he never came with me to pick up Nicole.
That was unusual.
That was unusual. I think he went at the most 3 times, his life with me to pick up Nicole. Then when we went, obviously the car, he was making phone calls to Jacob, to Mike Rose, to the lawyers. And the only thing I said, please, I don't want to talk about this in front of Nicole. So when we picked up Nicole, we didn't talk about it. I asked Nicole how was her day, whatever. We got to the house, I put Nicole to bed, everything. He was in the office. I went to the office and he was still talking to lawyers, or to his people, to the lawyer. And I did ask, but where can she be? Do you call someone? Like, no, we don't have anyone in contact. I don't have any contact with her friends or her family. So and he was determined, like, wow, okay. Because like I'm the opposite. Like if that would happen to us, I can call anybody from his family, friends, and I have a good relation. So that day obviously was I was shocked, I was nervous. I thought in my head that she was gonna come at some point to the house. So I slept with before.
Because of what he had told you.
Yes, I was like, okay, what if she comes to this house? And I did tell him put alarms in the house, which I believe he did. And then the next day, after Rania, he went straight to supposedly to see the kids, but then he met with the police. And at some point he calls me from Jacob's office or Jacob's phone. And he says, listen, Fotis phone they took Fotis phone, don't answer phone calls. If the police calls you, they're gonna go to your voicemail. Don't answer any phone. And we're gonna no, Jacob, the lawyer. And then he said, we're gonna go and get a new phone for Fotis. I'm like, okay. And then I think at some point, Fotis texted me with the number and says, me, Fotis, this is our new number. And then we started talking with the new number. Well, obviously, I did my day. And at that point, he came, we sat down, I kept asking, do you know anything? And nothing, no one knows, but it's gonna be okay. Don't worry. Like he was the one telling me that everything was gonna be okay.
You're at the Pond Waters Gate. At the Pond Waters Gate.
But
Sure.
we went to me and Nicole, we went to the pond in the late in the afternoon. And Aaron, Hodge, Greg, they were there. And actually we sat at some point when Fotis arrived, we all sat in the grass. To talk about it.
Okay.
And the next day he went to New York, and we were talking on the phone a lot. And he kept saying, it's gonna be okay. This is gonna
Slow.
yeah. No, like everything's gonna be okay. Don't worry, it's gonna be resolved. Like he was like calming me down, and I was the one that was more.
Did you find that strange? That he wasn't more concerned?
I did, but because they had supposed to be such a bad relationship that they couldn't even talk to each other, I didn't understand. I did get upset when I found out that he was on Wednesday that night that they ate, that he didn't tell me.
Right.
And at some point I said, you know what, you're toxic people, you're a liar, I don't want to be near you, and I really want to move to Colorado. Like I was really to the point, and if you have my phone, you can see on my texts, that the possibility of me moving from Colorado was in December, I was for sure gone, and in June after going, because I had a plane ticket on the 10th of June,
Yes.
I was going to stay in Miami, and I didn't want to be in Connecticut anymore.
Did Fotis ever tell you when Jennifer first went missing that she was gonna come to the house?
No,
You're right.
the only thing he said, she's done that in the past, she disappeared, and she went to Alaska for 3-4 years, I don't know how many years, and she changed her name. But he has said that in the past.
Throughout all this, did you ever question him?
No, when I question his dad, like, where can she be? Can you call any of her friends? Any family the mom doesn't talk to me, and apparently, for what he said, that the sister has a mental problem. And I think an uncle of her, that they don't get along well. So he didn't, like, he's told me, I don't have anyone to call.
What about when the news about you guys being in Hartford? Where were you? How did you learn about that?
What do you mean?
When you guys were, it hit the news that you guys were in Hartford, throwing out trash. You remember that? When this was
Yes,
really
that
happening?
week.
Where were you and how did you find out about that?
I don't know if it was from found out.
You guys at the pond? You guys at the pond?
We were in the pond Saturday
When you
afternoon.
found out about Farber?
No, I don't know if I was in the pond.
And you didn't question him then?
No, I did. I did, and it's like nothing. But then again, it said 30 stops, which there were 30.
That's fine.
No, but it's not fine because it was an all-night exaggeration. Then it said at night, it wasn't night, it was daylight when we were in Hartford. And I'm like, but why are they gonna grab? And he's like, no, those were construction pads. When I say construction, what I've done in the past with him to clean the house is like tapes, a painting, a brush, a plastic, a piece of wood. I know, when I saw the pictures of the bags, when we didn't see anything with construction. Well, but I didn't know. And again, if you see the videos, because I saw the videos, and this is the garbage bin, the car was here and he was getting out and throwing it from there. So I wasn't even paying attention of what he was doing. Besides, I was in my phone and you can verify that I was chatting with Nicole at one point, texting, and another time my dad called me at 7.
Well, your family, if you use WhatsApp, your family was having a huge conversation all day long. And you only responded about 4 times throughout the whole period. You had your phone.
Yes, I know.
So pretty much from the time you go to 80 Mountain and including when you're in Hartford, you only responded about 4 times to 10 from what I saw.
Yes, if you see the past conversation.
But it doesn't show you on your phone texting and doing all this. It just shows your phone is kind of stagnant.
No, I texted Nicole at 7:41, Nicole, should I pick you up at 9:15? You have that in the text message. And then she responded at 9:47.
Sure. You have to get off the phone because the phone does not.
No.
Listen, this is gonna be, if this goes to a jury, if you have to think about how the whole story is gonna sound to 12 people sitting in the jury box. And whether you're on your phone or not, while he's driving you around Hartford, stopping in either 6 or 30 or some number in the middle, throwing out bags of garbage that end up being forensically linked back to Jennifer and to him, perhaps to you. I'm just telling you, how is that going to look? You can't off on my phone, I don't know what he's doing.
No,
Is that going to
he
sound?
told me that he was gonna throw construction pads, but I've
This
done
turned
that.
out it wasn't the case.
I know, but I didn't know that.
And why, as a construction guy, working in the field of construction, were you driving around Hartford in a creepy
I
area
told
of
him,
Hartford,
exactly.
driving around to multiple garbage receptacles, throwing out little bags? He has access to dumpsters, right?
Yes, but.
Doesn't that
I
seem
told
sound
him-
strange to you?
No, because in the past, in an event.
Well, I gotta tell you, I consider myself a reasonable person, and that sounds strange.
Okay, can I tell you when there was a parade of home show that 80 Mountain was part of it in October?
Yeah.
I did the same thing with Fotis after, and that house was.
What's your body person look like?
There was.
My point is, does not sound reasonable.
Okay, it
Okay.
doesn't sound, but I've done it in the past, and I didn't find it. The only thing that I did find weird was the area.
But
And I
get
did tell
out of
him,
here.
and I did tell him, what are we doing here? And I saw the videos, and there's one when he parks that he opens the door 2 times. And I believe that's when I told him, what are we doing here? That I remember when we spoke, the last time we spoke, I remember saying that there was like a fire, which I didn't see the fire, but I saw ambulance in the videos. So maybe I confused fire trucks with ambulance.
We know what's in the video, we've seen it.
Exactly, we know.
We heard.
But I remember that he at some point opened the door, that he was gonna get off. I said, what are we doing here?
Right.
He just close and then he said, no, just a second, and he opens again.
Were you uncomfortable in that area?
Yes, I was.
Did you ever open the door of the car, the truck?
I did once to clean my hands, and you can see that in the video, I'm cleaning my hands. Okay, no, but someone, I think it was the lady in the last conversation that she said that I put something in the drain, or whatever it's called. Yes.
No, we know, but it's around that.
Oh, but someone said that it was me that put it in the drain.
We know, Michelle, what went in the train, tell them to put it in there. We know to put it in there, and we're not saying.
Okay, no, but.
There's one, earlier you had mentioned that there was a little bit more detail about me, did that already come out?
I think for the most part, yes. Look, I'm gonna tell you something. The part of the keys is,
It's a big thing.
yeah, do you understand?
Yes, I do. Okay, if I.
Do your best to tell these gentlemen everything you know about the keys, how they got your car.
Okay, okay.
Or do you, or however.
If they were in here, with the door open, I tried it closed and I took it because, as you say, I was the last one to go and I took the key. At some point, Fotis calls me and he says, you have the keys. I said, yes, I do have, I said first, I said, said, I do. And then I checked and I said, yes, I have the keys. And I went outside the house and I handed him the keys. And that was in a period, I don't know, from here to the house, 10 minutes, probably.
So is there any more detail that you're willing to give us about this entire incident that happened already?
No, because there's, I mean, I told you that yes, that he spilled something and he cleaned
Was
it.
he cleaning it for a long time? Do you know?
I don't think so, because I was inside when he asked for paper towels, probably like 10, 15 minutes, or maybe less, 10.
I'm gonna ask again.
I mean, from when I came out and he gave me the paper, more or less.
I'm gonna ask you straightforward again. You're not met 3 times to talk, 4 times I think in total. And I still don't feel that you've given, at least for me, a valid reason as to why you followed Fotis' script when we first sat down. I want you to explain to me, why did you tell us things that you knew were false?
Okay, I was in shock. I was nervous. Fotis, when he told Abel and I to write the timeline, you call it script.
Your timeline moves times and instance. This is a script of what he wanted her. He had rings. He wanted her to follow. He was driving the motor.
He said yes. He was like, yeah, he wrote it and he was telling what to say or what to write.
Why did you follow it these times?
I was nervous. I was at the beginning of the shower. I did thought, but then I said no. I slept with the gun. I didn't take a shower, and then I said no, I didn't. So I said yes, and then I said no right after. So that the second meeting.
Okay.
So I'm telling you, I mean, I've been going through it, writing over and over to try to remember every detail, and I've been getting more of a better sense of what I did, also because I had the backup of part of my phone through chats that I can recover from my family and friends, and that's the only way I can match some things of that incident or that week.
Okay. And why didn't you tell us earlier about the key, about the car wash, about the coffee?
You guys didn't ask.
We asked you.
Just pausing it at 3:34:21. Detective Clabby just asked why the defendant did not tell you guys about the keys or the car wash. I think it was one other thing,
Coffee.
the coffee. And her response was, you guys didn't ask. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, in the June 6, 2019 interview, the defendant tearfully said to you that she would walk the world with you. Is that correct?
She did say that, yes.
But now she's indicating she didn't provide information because she wasn't asked.
That is correct, yes.
Take it back up.
Yeah, he was loading up.
No.
He asked you.
I know, but the car wash was.
We put in great detail. We asked you several
I
times.
was in shock, John. I
You
was.
were shocked and shocked.
Oh, I mean, this is not an easy thing to be sitting here with you. I mean,
That's why we're giving you several chances.
And I'm trying my best. If I remember something that I haven't said, I will tell you. I think I pretty much said everything that I know for detail, being stupid or not stupid.
Most calls.
Not be stupid. The things I've said, you said that I said things that are not important.
If everything you're telling us is 100% the truth, and you did yourself no justice in the beginning of this, you put yourself in a bad situation.
No, but you guys also have to understand that when I was arrested, they said you're gonna go to accessory, murder, I didn't even know those words, injury, tampering, and 30 stops at night. I mean, you guys also exaggerate when I got the first,
Everybody
and I
makes
was
mistakes.
in a prison, and I spent 2 nights in a prison. I mean, of course I was,
You were in the machine.
I don't know where.
Yeah, that's not prison.
Well, for
Miami
me,
is prison. You respect that? We try to make it as comfortable as we could for you.
I know, but I'm telling you, but also remember, and like each time, when you guys sat down, that for instance, I said thunderstorm, you were the first one saying, I checked the
I
forecast.
did, and it said it didn't happen, but now I understand that maybe it wasn't right. Because guess what? When I'm wrong, I'll let it in.
But you didn't need that moment.
I didn't know like that.
And you made me doubt
That's
myself.
why children don't want right now. I think
No,
they feel.
of course, I'm not saying.
You get upset, Michelle.
No, I understand, but what I'm saying that that day, you guys attacked me, everything I
No,
was
we
saying.
provided the information that we had at the time. We have a lot more information.
But everything I said, you were questioning it, and I was doubting of myself.
But that's just the process. So when you first met me, it's the rest of the that is now and all the rest. So, if that upsets you, this is
When
everything
I
that
said
you have.
upset, it's not that it upset me in a bad way. It
That's
upset
not-
me that there's
Not
nerves.
personal. All right, we're trying to get to the truth, Michelle. We don't care what the truth is necessarily. We want to know. If you're telling 100% the truth, and this is your call, I don't want anything that has happened to you. But you need to
Another
make
thing that
me,
we haven't talked about is Kent. Like, I found out Kent,
I
and
was
it's
going
true.
over this again, but before you get into Cal, I want to ask you about your trip to Boston.
Which one?
You went to Boston just prior to this happening, around the 18th, 19th time, right?
Yes.
What was that trip about? When was it planned? Why did you go?
My friend Paula, she's Colombian, her boyfriend, his son was graduating from Boston. And she had invited me to go like from Thursday. I said, I can't, I have Nicole, she's in school. I was gonna go with Nicole, but then Nicole had a birthday party that was a sleepover. So I dropped Nicole with Fotis in Lauren's house that Saturday, and we drove to Boston. We went to the hotel, we got changed, we went to eat, we met with my friend at a place called Empire. We sat at the bar, we had drinks, we ate, and then her boyfriend, Guillermo, which is a friend of mine, Guillermo, called and said, okay, we meet at the nightclub. And we ended up in a nightclub called Icon. And we were there dancing and around.
You don't need to go through all the details, I'm curious, like, so it was pre-planned, it wasn't a sudden thing.
It was pre-planned, but for,
Fotis came to visit you,
no, he came with me.
he came with you the whole time?
Yes.
Did he left, you didn't come back with him, right? Didn't he leave before you?
No,
No, he came back at the same time?
you're talking maybe of the previous week. I was also in Boston
Okay.
with Nicole.
He came home on a Sunday, right? And you and Nicole stayed up there? So I'm trying to understand.
No, wait. That Saturday, we drove Fotis and I together, and we came back Sunday morning.
Okay.
That's 18, 19 of May.
So you were home then?
I wasn't at home, and then I picked up Nicole in her at Lauren's house.
Okay. And you drove back from Boston with Fotis on that Sunday?
Yes.
Okay. What do you want to say about Ken?
Okay. Well, I just read about in the news that Kent also, it's like crazy with the wife, that the wife says that Kent and Fotis were planning on killing them.
Well, I'm asking you about the Sunday, because I'm gonna drive home from Boston. Who was Fotis called?
Well, no, I read it also in the
Who
news
was he
that
called?
he was in that apparently they went to Oyster Bar with another friend. I read it all in the news. Okay.
It's actually true.
Okay.
So what did you know?
You
No,
know,
the only thing I know about Kent, that he was going through a crazy divorce, a conflict divorce. Again, the woman was crazy, because that's what apparently Fotis would say about everybody, that the women are crazy. I'm telling you. When I was in Colorado, apparently Kent stayed over with Fotis a few nights.
when was that?
In February, March.
Okay.
I don't know. Also, another friend, Christos, that was also that got into a fight with the son of her wife,
Yeah.
stayed like for a month before Jefferson while I was in Colorado. But again, Kent, I never liked Kent. Kent is a person that I think he gave like bad advice for Fotis. He was the one saying don't pay that mortgage because it will put more pressure on the mom, and for what Fotis told me. This never came out of Kent's mouth. And they were meeting a lot, they were seeing a lot in that time. I thought it was because of the divorce, not the divorce, the mom of Jennifer making the lawsuit against Farber. And supposedly that's why Kent was the lawyer of Fotis for that. The only thing I knew that they had a very terrible divorce, that a woman was crazy saying that Kent raped her, and I'm like, these people, I don't like these people are all crazy. And that was my comment all the time towards Kent.
Okay. So most of what you know is what you saw in the news?
What I saw in the news and the little that Fotis said, that it's like that the wife and Kent, they were having a conflict divorce, that they were trying to see each other, but they couldn't because they had something over the courts, a restraining order. I mean, everything was like weird, like very weird.
That's it.
For me, it was yeah, very awkward.
So was there a time that you took your computer to an IT guy? To have him download that?
Yes, that.
Can you tell me about that?
Yeah, Dean, it's called, I got it, Dean. He's a nice guy, he's Fotis IT guy, he does all the work for computers. Fotis told me, call him, because I wanna ask him, how do I change from the number, from his old number to the new iPhone with the new number? Okay, he was supposed to meet with him. I called him, I texted or I called him and said, yeah, I will meet tomorrow at 9, 10 on Friday.
Leicester?
What is that?
Is that his name? Leicester?
Dean.
Okay.
Dean is
Okay.
DEAN.
Okay, so,
And
but you,
so he comes, Fotis said, at some point, I'm going to see Kent. So he left.
yeah,
And he left me with the washer machine and the IT guy.
okay,
And Dean, I said, Dean, Fotis wanted, he wanted to meet you, but he had to leave. If he wants to know that, to change the old number to the,
yeah.
and he said, no, you have to go to an Apple store and do it. So he couldn't do it. That's what Dean
Okay,
said.
well, did he help you
And
with
then,
images or photographs or anything on your computer?
no, then, like 2 months before, Fotis and Dean, they gave me an external drive that I had with my stuff on my computer, and I brought it down, and
This was
I
2 months before what? 2 months before Jennifer's history?
yes, like, Fotis always had this thing that they were gonna depose and attack, and they were gonna take all the computers from the divorce, so we had to have backups. I'm like, okay, I don't mind having backups, I don't have anything to hide in my computer. So that day, I picked up my hard drive from the upstairs, I gave it to Dean, he connected and he said, oh, we do an update, okay, and he did an update. Then I did ask you, have you seen the news, everything that is coming out of the disappearance of Jennifer and the husband and their name, my name was out there. And I said, how can I like erase that? He said, no, that's a Google thing. And that was it. And then Fotis never came and he left.
So he didn't take photos off your phone or your laptop?
No, nothing. And first, I don't think he did my phone, he did his thing. He went from the computer to the
Drive. Yeah, the reason I'm very interested in the keys is he's doing a lot, and then Michelle leaving, and then Fotis and while realizing the keys have been taken by Michelle, is that it looks a possibility is that Fotis wanted to keep that Tacoma longer so he could do a more thorough cleaning of it. And the fact that you removed the keys from the Tacoma door could be construed as you being part of the plan to keep the Tacoma longer. So do you understand that's why we're asking some of these questions?
I didn't take it.
So did Fotis tell you to take the keys? Or did you take them on your own?
No, what I remember is him saying, calling me and saying, you took Faber's keys,
Right.
and I said, did
But
I?
that's after you took the keys.
Yes.
My question is, why did you take the keys when you took them?
If I took it and I was the last one probably because the door was open, I closed it and I took it. But my understanding is that they went back, they picked up the car and Valen took it with the motorcycle.
Okay,
Which
so
I don't know.
there isn't any question, right? that you took the keys.
No, there's
Okay,
no,
so
I'm uncertain.
did you take them just automatically without thinking?
Well,
Or did someone tell you to take them?
no, no one told me to take any keys.
Okay.
The car, with the door open, you close it, you take the keys, and then
But it's not your truck. Why would you
okay,
take
you
the
leave
keys?
the car open in the middle of nowhere in the house.
No, it's in a driveway to residence, but it's other people. The residence, now you can't even see from the street.
I closed the cars.
Oh, I have no problem with the cars. It's not, you're not in the middle of nowhere. I mean, but the photos are still there, and there are 2 people, and there are 2 other people, they're in addition to your people, right? The raptor's there, the Suburban's there, the phone is there, you're there, and the Jeep.
Yes, all the cars were there.
So now I'm just trying to get through to you why we're so interested in why you
There's
took
no
those
mobile,
keys
but
out.
the keys, I had them, and I gave them, I'm pretty sure I gave them to Fotis when he arrived to the house.
So you said that at one point you might have taken Fotis' phone back from 80 Mile Spring to Jefferson Crossing because it needed to be recharged.
Yes.
Did at any time you take the phone back to 80 Mile Spring to give it back to Fotis? Do you?
I don't know if I brought it or Fotis went to the house.
All right, so since I'm going over this until we actually answer this first question. Do you remember, Michelle, taking Fotis' phone from 80 Mile Spring and bringing it back to Jefferson, or you just saying you
No,
bought it?
I don't remember I took the phone because it was out
Don't.
of battery. No,
Are you saying you're joking?
no, I do.
All right, well, it's just not coming out. Clearly.
So you do remember taking Fotis' phone back to Port Jefferson?
Yes.
Okay,
Now
so that would be the time that both of your phones go back to Jefferson, even though Fotis remains at 80 Mile.
yes.
Okay, so do you then bring it back to 80 Mile Spring?
No, I think he comes to the house and grabs it. I think.
That just doesn't fit.
Or maybe I did, so then yes, I brought
Okay,
it
so
back.
if you did,
Okay, I brought it back.
okay, so if you did you leave your phone line?
No, I
Okay, I don't fit either. All right, I'm just trying to clarify as best I can. How much does and does not fit things we have. That's it.
Can you tell me what doesn't fit?
So a lot, that story you just told me doesn't match up with the movements of the phones.
I always had my phone with me. I never took it.
I'm just telling you that it is. So we're hoping that you would come here and give us a lot more information on.
But what information do you guys want, please?
Here's a question. Friday the 24th was a beautiful day. The weather was nice, do you remember? It was very
Yes,
nice.
yes.
You and Fotis go to Hartford for Farber Dulos. Why is there a fire in your chimney?
At what time was it?
When you're in Hartford, not home. There's smoke billowing out of your chimney.
I don't think there was like smoke out of the chimney, but
Yeah, there was a smoke. Yeah, there was video from your neighbor's house. There was a fire, tons of smoke billowing out. So we got here in Hartford, you have a nice fire burning with nobody home. And it's over recorded on video, so I do think that did happen. So I'm not gonna just make stuff
no,
up.
I'm not saying that it didn't happen. I do turn the chimney a lot.
Did you go out for the day? Oh, let's
It
get
wasn't night, it was the date. It was
It was
date.
like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, yes.
And we saw what you guys burn.
Wood.
It's beautiful.
Pero, okay, and I do wood. My mom came on Friday and I did wood.
You were outside the shores, and you're having a fire in the house?
I do fire every day, doesn't matter.
Every day.
But not
You
every
gave
day.
it burning when you leave the house.
No, it wasn't burning when we leave the house. I don't think it was burning. It must have.
I think so, because we have video of you in the car in Hartford.
No, I
And
wasn't. I'm not saying that
at
it
the same time,
wasn't.
we had video of your house, and it's what's the smoke? The house clearly didn't burn down, so there wasn't a fire, so.
No, but it wasn't. It wasn't. It
So you
wasn't.
guys had a fire that day?
Yes, I had a fire that day.
At what time?
When I came back, probably like around 5.
Around 5? But at 5, you were heading on the road, just on the order.
Well, 5:30. I
But
mean,
then you're going back and forth, and I was at 5:30.
I was already in 5:30.
Just gonna pause it at 3:51:59. The defendant indicated that she had a fire at approximately 5:30 PM on May 24th. Is that correct?
That's correct, sir.
During the course of the interview, did the defendant ever indicate to you whether or not she had set a fire at 2:56 PM?
No,
Did she ever indicate to you whether or not she had set a fire at 3:25 PM?
no.
I wasn't.
Got wood, started a
No,
fire, got
we
going.
have, what we have inside the house.
Is it a gas? And
No, it's with real wood. We have a.
it takes a few minutes to start a fire, to really get it going good.
No,
Your
no,
chimney is-
no,
You
no.
always go over
No,
here, don't
you grab the thing and you buy, you peel the paper, you turn it on and you put wood.
Throw up.
Yes, but
Then you got a ton of smoke.
not smoke, with the wood, with that thing with wood, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, there's the chimney to your house, and it's crazy smoke coming out of it, throw up.
No, no, with wood. We have the wood, I have the wood inside the house.
You left the house with the wood burning.
And that's not a problem, you put the fence and it's not gonna burn the house.
I can find you lots to say otherwise, but, so you did have a fire.
Yes, and I had a fire,
You started that fire.
yes, and I had a fire like 2 days after, and I had fire when my mom was there, that she wanted to fire on that Friday. So, and even Pavel helped me carry logs that week.
That week or that day?
No, that week,
That week.
inside the house.
Did you know that Fotis borrowed Pavel's axe?
No,
No?
no,
Do you know why he would borrow Pavel's axe?
no, because I didn't remember. Now that you're saying we need to do something, but I never saw
I'm
him
not saying
with
that.
an axe. I never saw him with an axe.
You never saw the axe in the garage?
Which one is an axe to start with?
It's, you know, did you chop wood with?
Okay, no, I
No?
didn't, no. Focus on Monday, I think, in the morning, he was doing the garden in front of the house.
Does he ever use an axe?
No, he was using a,
Have you ever known him to use an axe? You never seen Fotis chop wood? Never. Does he have a chainsaw? Fotis? Did you ever see him cut trees?
No.
Never. So that would be out of his character, I don't know.
I've never seen,
You never seen
shot.
it?
The one that cut, like the entrance to us to go with the motorcycle was Pavel, but I think it was with the one that's I don't see him with a chainsaw. But I don't think Fotis has a chainsaw.
Show this bike at all, Cooper? This type of bike, not this bike, it's exactly.
It could be,
All right.
it looks,
Is that
I know
similar?
that color.
Okay. So the bike that, the old bike that
And it was black seats.
That's why I'm saying not this bike. You have, where is that bike now? You have to remember that bike was the last time you saw it?
In a month.
That's the last time, is it back? Well, you're not back.
And when I went to pick up the bicycles, I don't remember seeing it.
At Jefferson,
When I went to pick up my clothes
at Jefferson.
on Jefferson.
Okay, but that one that you pointed out, that's normally where it would hang.
Yes,
Yeah, it's
yes,
a little
yes,
different.
yes.
Okay. Have you tried to contact him?
No. He doesn't have my number.
No. Call your family. And if you have no more detail to offer us, if you understand, there's explaining this still needs to.
Yes, if you ask me, I'll try to answer as much as I can, but maybe you guys have something in your head that I don't have.
No, we can't tell you what to say, you know, we
No,
can't.
but maybe ask me, I don't know, what happened, like, for instance, like, going back and forth of the house. I tell you what I recall in my memory, that yes, at some point I went back, I came back, and then I went back and I stayed, I didn't go
Okay.
back to 80 Mountain. So.
No, neither of us were there, so we have to listen to what you're telling me,
You
and we have to
can
look it up.
have access to
Yeah.
my information because of my phone, so you know exactly
Yeah,
where
and
I
a
was.
lot of that, I'm just saying, so we want to know, it's your time.
No, because there are things that I forget, like for instance, I just found out, I just remember when we saw the evidence, because we saw the paper of the bank, of Fotis, that they went to the bank, otherwise I would not remember. If I didn't see the evidence on the tape that you guys sent of a bank, an ATM bank.
Right, you already got a lot of that.
Yeah.
So did you see all the stuff in the maps? Did you get all that?
So
No, we're missing one bank.
we might be, I mean, there is, we saw Green Street, Garden Street, Center Street. We saw the garbage bags from the house.
You saw the stuff that was in it?
Yes, nothing construction.
Michelle, this is the one you wrote, right? This was the.
Yeah, that's not correct.
And this is the one that Fotis wrote? These two? So. Is this accurate what you wrote?
I don't understand what it says. What does it say?
So, we're in working right now. No, just put it flat out. Michigan Andy, what's that? Michigan Andy work on traps. That's what it says.
And they covered all trucks.
Okay. Who's Michigan, right? Who's Andy?
And this, the guy that
Andy
works
Lewis?
on, yes, Luis.
Okay. Was Andy Lewis there that day? That's Monday, that's Friday.
So Andy was there.
No, it's just on Friday the 24th. All
No, I
right.
didn't see him.
All right, so what is what you're saying, that this piece of paper that Fotis wrote for you, right, this is talking about you,
Yeah.
is it not accurate?
Oh, it's not
At
accurate.
least that part's not accurate, right?
Yeah, that's not accurate. Brought computer to office.
Right.
Obviously, he wrote everything that I told you because this is true. Like I did choose medical school. I did take the first touch call and DG2 first. That well, didn't call me. I texted the supermarket. It's true. I went to the supermarket. So he was writing what I was saying. He wrote it. I read, yes.
And then did you read it? Is that,
No.
because that is kind of close to what you told us on our percent.
No, but it's like I did go to the supermarket. I did.
Oh, I understand.
No, this is not true.
That's not true.
The shower together.
So did he tell you took showers together, or did you tell him?
No, he said it.
So is that him telling you what to tell the police? Or is that him trying to help you remember what happened?
Well, obviously it was for me to say it. But he was trying to be more accurate, but with
But it's not being accurate.
With a lie.
Right. I mean, a lot's not accurate.
Like, I know, that's what I said. He was trying to feel things that I said I don't remember, but the things that he didn't wasn't true. And then for Petrus, that was me. And I didn't do the phone, I did do that. Computer sent and to Chico, Okay, I don't know what's that, send email to.
Yeah, that's all, he has him, it's in you.
Yes, there are cliff, I don't know, cliff is yeah.
All right, but more than the beginning, because towards the end, he starts to give his own. He goes further into the evening because he talks about members of the Kansas Police Department contacting him. He goes all the way up to
No, yeah, that's true, that's not true, like, I didn't take a shower with him, I did do the juice, but obviously he was putting things that I had said. I did, for Nicole and then for me.
There's definitely,
Yeah.
some untricks. All right, so to recap, you saw Ken in the office on Friday the 24th. Fotis' phone was in the office, and you heard the phone ring, and Ken started moving towards you.
Like coming and saying, like something with the call, like grab the call or
Okay.
is that a call, something with the call.
And you picked
And
up
I
the
picked
phone.
up the phone, I saw Andreas, but as I tell you, sometimes police writes the name of women in man's name.
Did you suspect that that might be a call from a woman?
Yes.
Okay. But Ken pushed you, like he wanted you to, let's say, encourage you. He encouraged you
Oh,
to
we didn't
get
have
to the
to
phone.
each other. It
No, 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 no.
was hard.
That's why he said, are you gonna get there? Can you
Yes,
get that?
yes.
If he wanted
Then
you to
he was like listening to me with the phone and there was like,
Did Ken wanted you to answer that phone?
it felt like yes, because he was like looking at me.
Okay, knowing it was not his phone. Not your
Yes,
phone.
no, mine wasn't, it was my phone.
Okay, so there's static on the phone, he says, oh, please
Yeah,
stay away.
yeah.
And then the phone terminates or fails, and you put the phone back down, and that all was a matter of maybe 20, 30, 40 seconds short.
Yeah.
Okay, and did the phone ring again? That you know of?
No, because I left.
Okay, and you left the phone there, and when you were holding the phone, did at any time Ken ask for the phone? Did he say give me the phone? Okay, all right, just want to clarify that.
Did he say to you, are you gonna get it?
Yeah, he said something, are you gonna get the call or is that the call? Like something with the call.
He said, is that the call?
No, are you gonna get the call or is that a call? Like, I don't know exactly the words, but yes, he said like.
So basically, Ken asked if you were going to.
Exactly.
I want to go back to, the day of the car wash. 29, after you meet with Attorney Bowman. Go to the bank to get cash.
So he, because it's not my account and I didn't do it. I was thinking of that.
Why do you pay with cash? Does he always pay with cash?
I have no idea. I think I gave it credit card. I never used cash card.
When you're with him, does he often pay with credit card or does he often pay with cash?
Credit card. When we travel outside, cash.
When you travel outside of the country, cash. But when he's home in the United States, Connecticut, he's
Well,
normally
I
using
think
credit cards. But recently around this time, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And I didn't see him pay, so I don't know that he paid with cash. We're the one telling. Exactly. I
So-
don't know.
The seats with Abel's truck, what do you know about this?
What seats?
All those seats in his truck, driver's seat, the Tacomas. What do you know about those seats?
What do you mean by what?
Do you know anything about the seats? Did Paul say anything? Do you know anything about the
No,
seats?
but
Truck.
someone told me that.
Question.
No, I don't know anything about
How
it.
does ever tell you anything about the seats?
No, the only thing Fotis said, Abel is gonna sell his car.
Judge, this is a good time to take a.
Yeah.
morning recess.
Ladies and gentlemen, we will take our morning recess and resume at 11:35. Please do not discuss it. Will council stipulate?
Yes, Judge. Yes. And we're picking the video back up at 4:05:53. We're going to rewind to 10 seconds, Judge.
Thank you.
He told you that the day of the car wash.
The day of the car, he's gonna sell his car, and he asked me if he can use that Cherokee for a period of time. I said, yeah, I don't have a
Okay, but he never mentioned deceased, nothing like that.
No, what's, no. No.
You're doing for sure.
Yes. I mean, I know he wanted to sell the car for this told me.
No, the question
I
is,
don't know.
no, listen, it's just, what he's saying to you is, this is the question.
And I'm answering, I don't know anything. The only ones that they, all the things about the cars was between Pavel and Fotis. They were the ones that knew which car to take each morning. I was always the leftover of whatever car was left over in the house.
So you got whatever's left now.
Yes.
Last choice. I was raised a little different myself, but ladies choice, ladies first.
I mean, obviously I prepared the Cherokee because it was almost
Yeah.
comfortable. And I mean,
Direct refusal. I'm sorry, we're jumping all over, but go back to Ken. How often is Ken at the house?
lately he was going to the house a lot and Fotis was going to his office. I don't know if they were seeing, I mean, I don't know.
To get you to the former office or to
Ken
Ken's office?
to Fotis to Ken's office and Ken's to Fotis.
Can you kind of define lately, like the time frame?
Like maybe 3 weeks.
So 3 weeks to kind of gear it up.
They were, that I hear him talking a lot with Kent, or he would tell me I'm talking to Kent and maybe he wasn't sure.
Is it normal for Ken to be in the house that early in the morning? In by himself?
Well, that office, a lot of people comes in and out. It was like, sometimes I would find subcontractors for her. Fotis was an early person. I don't know if I saw Kent at that time, another day, that early.
You overheard their conversations, does anything stand out? Fotis and Ken talking?
Fotis, each time he would talk, he would go to the office to talk. Even when he talked to Mark, Andreas, his friends, he would always go to
That makes a lot of
the,
sense. Makes sense.
to the office.
It was always that way? Fotis?
Yes. Yes. Or he would chat a lot.
Chat.
Oh, and
Yeah,
so,
text, yes, message.
Have you ever known, Chelsea, you ever known Fotis to watch any of his workers' cars before the time that they watched?
Well,
He
the
watched.
only person, well, Barret, I've seen him since I moved there. Guillaume, there was another French guy called Guillaume, that he used to have the Raptor, but Fotis would use a lot of the Raptor. So they were exchanged.
but Pavel, the Toyota is Pavel's truck.
That-
Fotis ever watched it, it's one of his workers' trucks.
I never saw washing that one, but just washing other cars from his car.
Well, his cars.
Yes, but not
Good
from,
question.
not from the.
Yes, he'll watch former cars.
Yes, but not from
Other
Barret.
cars.
Now, Pavel's car, when we first talked to you, you described it to us as this. Pavel's car is old, destroyed, and very dirty inside.
Yes,
You didn't find it kind of strange that he wanted to wash it?
because he told me at some point that Barret wanted to sell it, and when Audrii said 3 times that he was gonna sell it, and that if it doesn't matter, if he can stay with the Cherokee.
Do you still believe that to be the case?
No, of course.
Well, I mean, I can't make assumptions, sorry. You don't believe that's a true story anymore told by Fotis?
Because it's a lot of,
Why would Fotis be washing Tacoma, do you think? Do you have any idea?
obviously, all the evidence is because, and you showed me the picture of the blood in that door, it's because the body of Jennifer at some point was in there.
See, that's what's called reasonable. What we believe as well.
And
But,
I find it, that's it,
no, I know, I,
that's it. That's literally disgusting. So this is why if you have detail, or somewhere deep in your heart, you still feel what you're doing for him.
No, he was probably just cleaning the car. Well, he was cleaning the car.
But to tend to do that, that's pretty ugly. No,
No, but with, like, paper towel, I
That's not what he's talking.
what I'm talking about is that somewhere deep within you, you still feel for this guy, or there's a connection,
I
or you're trying to,
don't.
there is detail, and this is the last opportunity.
No, I know, he was cleaning the car.
You're not gonna meet with us again.
I know, but he was cleaning the car.
Well, they decided whether the seats were clean.
So
Inside.
I didn't see him inside, but
All right, so
obviously,
the door was open.
the door was open, he kind of walked, he asked for paper towels, so yes, he
Did
was.
you notice anything in the back bed of the car, truck? Were there any any bags, other than garbage bags, were there any sea bag or, was there anything in the garage at EMS for?
No, in the garage, he was empty, that garage is empty, I saw the bicycle,
Mm-hmm.
and that's it, and I think there were bags that he has of I don't know with what,
Okay.
but they were like paper bags or something.
Okay, the grocery bags or bigger
Like what?
grocery bags?
No, bigger.
Bigger.
Like, yeah, the big construction.
Okay.
I don't know, maybe it's a net, I don't know what is the big thing. I don't know if they're still there.
And that bike was an old black colored,
Or brownish or
dark colored.
dark color.
Did it have a,
Pavel fixed it, he must know exactly what brand. Pavel was the one who fixed that bike.
Michelle, when you brought up the bike earlier, you said Pavel had mentioned it. You also said 61 Sturbridge at the same time, which is an address
Wait,
in
what?
New Canaan.
Sorry?
you must have shows.
When you told us about Pavel talking about the bike, at the same time you said 61 Sturbridge.
That they started talking about 61 Sturbridge.
Okay. It wasn't about the bike, you just kind of
No,
confused the two
it
things.
was like conversations that I recall of them having.
Okay.
But not that it's the bike.
It didn't have to do with Sturbridge and the bike, it was just.
It's that at some point, what I remember Pavel telling Fotis like how was his day in 61 Street in New Canaan.
Right. This is kind of distinct lettering. This is part of that bike. Does that lettering look at all familiar? Don't go by the color of the bike, just look at the lettering itself. It's kind of how but it says special Tour de France. And then there's.
It was a European bike because he brought it from Europe because he said that he had it since he's 18. So I guess it's a bike from a European type.
Is that name?
Just gonna pause it at 4:14:10. Detective Kimball, can you just indicate to the jury what you're showing the defendant at this point?
I am showing a photograph off the internet of a Mercier bicycle that has the font, the words Special Tour de France.
And why were you showing her that particular brand of bicycle?
Because in the Albany Avenue garbage, we discovered 2 bags that were taped together, and on the adhesion side of the tape was that phrase, Special Tour de France.
I don't know that brand.
But I didn't know either. The Tour de France thing you've never seen before?
Of course, I see the Tour de France.
Well, no, this specific logo.
No, I don't.
Tour de
But
France. Never saw
but
that
it was a
before.
bike similar to that. It was a European bike. He told me that he had it since he was 18. Probably he brought it with him, or he bought it here. I don't know. Is this a brand that you find here?
I actually never heard that for sure. So I don't know where.
But the one that's I know exactly is fine. But I
Well, they were-
well, but I don't think they mentioned it was.
Let's see.
Look, trying to
Yes,
guess.
you guys can keep asking, I can stay all night, because I really wanna solve this and I don't know what to do, I can't tell. I'll tell you whatever, but tell me what you wanna know and I'll go over it and I'll think with you guys. I mean, what else, I know.
The ultimate is we
I know
find out
that
what happened.
For all that you guys have, obviously, that Fotis did something to her. If she was cleaning the car, if he was cleaning the car, it was Jennifer's blood. So he knows where Jennifer is.
Yeah,
But I don't know.
Go ahead. Because he's sitting here, he's had,
I know, but
well, that's actually a question. Did he ever tell you he was cooperating with the police with the distractions of his wife?
He told me, what I heard in the phone when they said, I want you to come tomorrow. It was on Friday night talking to the police, I guess in Canada. He said, I will go down, no problem. I'll answer all the questions. I stayed with that in my mind. When he went to the police, Jacob, the first person I heard from was Jacob, and he was with Fotis. And they said, listen, they took Fotis' phone. We just spent, I don't know how many hours in the police.
Oh, not long at all, living.
Okay, he told me he went and he spent time in the police,
Brief.
that they took his phone. Everything is gonna be okay. Please, if your phone rings, don't answer. If the police calls, you're gonna leave a voicemail, which they did. They did leave voicemail, I think 2 times. I don't know who called. And then obviously I did ask him at some point when he came back, do you know anything? What happened? Everything's gonna be okay. And she
So
said,
actually, you realize that's not an answer. You're asking him, do you know anything about the disappearance of your wife? And that should be a yes or no answer. And his response is, everything will be fine. Don't
well,
worry.
because.
That's not an answer.
Yes, of course, it's not an answer.
And you never asked him, where were you that day? Because I didn't see you at home, your phone was at home. Did everything about the conversation?
It didn't because that house is so big, I've seen, we don't see each other for that day. It's not like I've seen him every 5 minutes.
You didn't know where he was that
I didn't know. I
That's
did
when
ask
his
him.
wife disappeared.
No, but because he was in A in the afternoon, then we went to the Harvard. I mean,
Yeah, that's the afternoon, right?
In the afternoon, in my mind, I was with him pretty much all day.
And then in the dinner party,
What do you think was
the 23rd, everyone's over. Fotis doesn't come till like 8:30, right? If you go over there,
No, he was there.
he was there from the start.
He was there, he just went out for a second to buy up meat and he came back.
She knew what car he drove. She's thinking out to go to the.
And he did come with a piece of meat.
Yeah.
But
No, he
just-
got stopped.
like, he had a piece of meat in that somewhere.
He's doing a lot of languages.
Okay.
So this is a trend. Do you know, so
And we were, I mean, it doesn't, I don't know, because he was having wine, like.
Yeah.
We were all drinking, we were not like alcoholics getting drunk, but we were like having a nice time
Okay.
that night. And that dinner was supposed to be Tuesday.
Okay.
So it's like, I don't know what happened.
week, normally, that lease is Toyota Tacoma at Fort Jefferson, correct? Was there a time during that week or the previous week, Michelle, that you realized that Tacoma wasn't at Fort Jefferson anymore? Was it there the whole time that you remember?
Pavel, he has a mix, sometimes he leaves it overnight, sometimes he takes it, and when he leaves the car, usually he parks it inside.
All right, let me ask the question a different way. Moving backwards from Friday the 24th, what was the last time before that you saw, that you can remember seeing the Toyota parked at Fort Jefferson? You remember it all that week?
But I know that Pavel had a Raptor.
I understand that.
But
I'm trying to find out where the Toyota was in the days leading up to the.
No, but the weird thing is that Pavel will come to the house, into the office.
Yeah.
So he should
But he'll
know.
come in and he'll come in the
That's
Raptor.
not whether they're asking you.
No, but when he would come, he would exchange his car for the Raptor, and then he would go in his car.
On the 24th of March, do you remember seeing the Tacoma before seeing it at 80 Mount?
No, I saw it in the first time.
Okay, so it wasn't at Fort Jefferson on the morning of.
Not parked outside,
Okay, where would you normally park?
inside or in front of the motorcycles,
Inside the garage?
inside the garage.
So are you,
Few times he would leave it outside,
Mhm.
but usually he would park it inside of the.
so do you know if the Toyota Tacoma was at Fort Jefferson on the morning of the 24th?
I don't know, but I saw it at 80, that's when I saw the car.
Sorry.
Now, you guys have the videos of the neighbors. Does it show when the car left?
Well, you have to have video to show where the car leaving from to know when it's leaving.
Wait, what?
So he answered the questions. We won't answer that question, it's too complicated. The bottom line, I was trying to find out from you, if you remember seeing the red Tacoma at Fort Jefferson.
No, I don't remember, but when I saw it was in 80, parked outside,
Okay.
since I arrived to 80.
There's you go out the backyard of Fort Jefferson, you go out by where the patio back there. If you're looking out from the patio, you got the trees to the left and then where there are the power lines, and you see where you guys ride the bikes. Is there a walking path through there?
Well,
In the back, on the bikes, back of the,
the ones that we didn't with the motorcycle, like I cut that and it became a path that we created.
that you can leave from the backyard of Fort Jefferson to get out to the power lines to go up under the power lines. Is that?
That's what we do with the motorcycle.
Right, so that's the right thing. So that's, if it's drivable on a motorcycle, it's at least walkable on foot,
Well, we
correct?
called with the
Right.
police.
Oh, I heard that.
We walk, yeah, we can walk, I mean,
You okay?
we.
Okay.
Mine was okay, it was, everybody was behind this one, she was.
Well, because that's what we did. And the last time I went there with the motorcycle, with Pavel, Fotis and I, we did one round and then Pavel and Fotis did another round by themselves. I didn't go, I stayed in the house.
Do you think about this thing to do with Jefferson?
No, I don't think so, but I don't wanna say anything.
No, I'm just asking, no, that's your thing.
I don't
Why,
think-
why? You said you don't think so.
Well, I don't think so. But,
Why not? Just curious.
because I don't think Pavel would, why would he want to do something to Jennifer?
Just your asking. My voters.
Well, Fotis, I guess yes, he had a lot of anger and upsetness. I don't know.
Angry at Jennifer.
Yes, at some point he told me and my mom, Jennifer is a monster.
Was his anger, like, was he getting worse and growing? Well,
He was up and down. At some point when like he didn't see his kids, yes, hated her. Then when he started seeing the kids, he would go a little bit. Then when the report came out, he was actually super, the Herman's report, he was super happy. But then he started saying, oh, she's changing. And then he started lying to me, not telling me that they were having conversations, that they were eating together or spending a fair together. I mean, that obviously.
And why was that going on?
What,
Do you have any idea why he was having contact with her?
I don't know, I asked him a million times what was the purpose, if everything was going through the court, he had favor for him, that's supposedly the report. That part, I don't understand. But I did ask him a lot too, I'm like, I don't understand why, I mean, why you were gonna follow like the texting and seeing her and all this, if there's already a report that is coming supposedly to your favor, from what he told me, and his lawyer back then in Macros, if the judge is gonna see and they're gonna, the report apparently said that they were gonna give him custody of the kids.
That's correct, yeah.
Well, according to him and Macros, the lawyer.
Okay.
But yes, it's true, I don't know what the report said.
Alright, yeah. You can only tell us, we understand what, you can only tell us what we know, I'm not asking you to.
I think,
But okay, with all this evidence and everything, yes, of course, Fotis is involved and was,
but they want to know.
but if I see something, no, if I do, no, he made me do things that, yes, it was maybe part of his plan, and I felt because I was helping him out, like, okay, come and clean a house. It's not like I went every single day to clean a house. I was helping him, he asked me to do it, okay, like he asked me, I wanted to work on this PPT for the Pablonis with Andy, and I went and I worked with Andy, changing, instead of Bull family, it would say Pablonis family, okay, or if we go to see some plants, he said, well, bring me the maps, and let's show it, and I wanted to be, or like help me with the
So we include
website.
you in, unknowing.
Yes, I mean, that's the part that I get upset.
Well,
Because I did a lot.
Yeah.
I went with him,
Huh?
well, of course, but I cannot do anything, and if I get close to him,
No,
punch him, I
make
get,
it. You have no contact, and he's not trying to reach you.
no,
This is an order.
yes.
Well,
No, we have a
I
team.
suggest
Yes, I don't want to see him anymore, I don't want to have anything,
It's,
but
Right after they
honestly,
said that he still loves me, it's like a sister.
yeah, that was the, there's no
yeah, so they put me, and even practice, I didn't have to call Andy to say, is it true that I went to a polygraph? And he said, no, you didn't. Okay, so they were putting things in my mouth, but I'm not talking to them. Well, I had to ask him, I didn't know, I thought that cameras that you brought was a polygraph. Okay, I didn't know. Again, obviously, he used me, and he put me in a situation that maybe Abel did the same thing. Maybe Abel put him in a situation that was helping Fotis without Abel knowing or me knowing.
Oh, you mean photos with Pavel?
Yes. And he did the same thing. Why? Because I'm the stupid, I'm the one that is with him, I'm the one that never says no to anything. He says, go and clean the house, and I go and I clean the house.
He's a master manipulator, what are they doing?
Okay, I know, okay, but I didn't know.
Right.
I always thought
Yeah,
he was
that's-
pushy to us to a certain point, but he wasn't pushy, he's manipulative. And he manipulates me in a lot of things. Even like when I even moved in here, the story was completely different. He told me that everything with Jennifer was fine, that it was gonna be okay, that there was no problem on us moving into the Fort Jefferson home, that she wanted the kids to
Where did he tell you that Jennifer and the kids were gonna go when that happened?
well, first he said to a house in Cambridge that Jennifer, that the parents have. That was
Okay.
supposedly where they were gonna move. But then all of a sudden, she rented a house in New Canaan.
Okay.
But that
I missed that. So I'm just curious what he did. What was it for Michelle when she came with her Jennifer? Michelle, do you have any idea who this person is? Coming around with those, that's, I'm talking about. You've never seen that girl? What does she look like? Kind of looks like you. A lot.
whatever, that's not me.
No, I'm not saying it's you, I'm saying it looks like you. And I'm saying that, you know, just that it might be by design. She looks like you. So you don't know who that
That's
is?
the one that they called me saying that it was me.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, it's Michelle 2.0. Michelle, so our big question is, yeah, I mean, he either has a very specific body type that he likes, or he's trying to set you up, or he's trying to set us up. Or it's a game, to make us think it was your booty call.
No,
Well, at first glance,
and it's not a,
I'm sure.
he has two nieces, it's not a niece.
Alright, so that's
Okay.
She's clearly not.
And
She's around the same age group as all of us folks. She looks just like you.
I don't know.
She's very happy to smile. Right, we're just curious if you did that. Like I'm saying. Okay. Just like your
No,
sister.
it's not family, it's not friends. He sent me like he used to me.
Is there anything else that you can tell them about the details of the 24th? Anything else that you
I
had?
don't have anything. He came home.
We had a discussion at lunch.
We had lunch. No, nothing that out of our.
What did you fix?
No,
Remember anything you talked about?
I don't know, but usually our conversations, they go, I don't know.
Yeah,
But
okay.
usually what we talk is about our kids. I always talk about Nicole and he talks about his
Right.
5 kids. Lately, he was talking a lot about his divorce and all the problems that the divorce was bringing. But I don't remember exactly what was on that day. We did at some point talk about Rania coming the next day,
Right.
That
The
we
reason
did.
to have
the house clean. So that we did talk at some point, that he was going, that she was coming with some clients. He wanted to have clients to sell lots. He sold the metaphor recently. He sold the ones, and I met, he had the lots of the one, Mr. One, that is also in Old Mine, that's in Mountain Stream. Close to his lots,
Okay.
through Rob Shufri, I think, they sold it.
Mhm.
It was a Greek couple, I met them. Fotis was trying to sell them the 585 beer kit, so he went to show them the lot. So I don't know exactly what conversation we had that day.
Sorry, I have a question. You said that when he came home, when you saw him, he had on a collar, blue and white shirt.
Yeah, blue, yeah.
Did he change the shirt?
Well, when he was in Haiti, he had a black shirt. And then when we were in Hartford, he had a white shirt. That's all we have out.
Where did the black shirt?
I don't know.
It was long sleeve.
See.
Does Fotis have, or did he have a hooded sweatshirt that was blue? Did you recall?
Yes,
Did he wear it often?
to go to, well, not now, but when it starts getting cooler, to go, yes, to the pond.
Okay. And when you shaved his head, did he also shave his body?
Not that I saw, but he does wax, and I found
Wax?
he usually waxes his back.
Wax, yeah, right.
His back. And I even got him his certificate last year in 2018 for him to go to the same place where I was for him to wax, but he goes somewhere else.
All right, so that's a strange question. Does he have a lot of body hair? Normally? No? Is that because he waxes or normally?
He shaves here,
Shaves stuff out?
but shaves, not wax. He
Right.
does wax his back, but the hair I didn't. I shaved his head first time, but he does.
Yeah,
Yes. And I was like,
you didn't really have any idea at the time why he does do that, right?
but again, I went through his Instagram and I found pictures of him with his hair shaved, so he's done it in the past. It's not like he hasn't.
And Pavel, does he always just wear a t-shirt and jeans? Always t-shirt and jeans?
Cool.
From what you know, obviously, you know, he's just a guy, you know. All right, so Fotis does have the blue hooded sweatshirt.
I'm almost certain positive that yes, he has dark
Where does he keep
in his closet.
in his closet, somewhere in his closet? And I asked you earlier about if you ever saw something strange in the washroom. You never saw the bucket that didn't belong in the washroom?
But I don't know if
I'll spell it out. So Pavel gets the car back from eating home, and he notices a bucket in his truck that doesn't belong to him. He tells us he puts it back in the washroom at Fort Jefferson. This is
Friday.
probably around the 29th or so.
He put it back next week.
Yes. Yeah. You don't recall? You don't. One last question.
Fotis did tell Renata on Friday 31st to go and clean 80 Mountain. Renata is the cleaning lady.
Okay, so Renata is the clean. She what?
She's Polish.
Okay, so her.
And she went to the clean 80 Mountain almost all day.
Okay.
I think she only did like the beds and then she went to
And what day was it?
the Friday 31st.
Okay. How about Tuesday? Was she there on Tuesday?
Tuesday she was in the house.
That was the 28th. That was only in the house.
She was in the house, cleaning the house.
Did Fotis ever tell you that if the police questioned you about that day to essentially to Pavel? Because we noticed in both interviews, you were directing us to check out Pavel pretty pointedly. So is that part of it? In other words, you say, hey, he had a red truck, let's check that out. That was like almost out of the blue.
He has the only one that has red truck,
Okay,
but
and was that because you had heard somewhere that there was a red truck maybe involved? Why did you say that?
because at some point there was, I think in the media or somewhere, that former Forbes employee.
Well, that's Norm tradesman.
When, I don't know, but, I don't know, I never said that it was Faris, I'm just saying.
Okay, so
that
I'm just
the one that's
asking-
red,
I'm just asking you, Michelle, if Fotis ever asked you to deflect and put our attention on that.
I haven't talked about him since the rest, I never
So we
spoke.
don't know. I mean, it would be unreasonable for you guys to have conversations. We don't know that. Probably be in best interest not.
She's
No,
no.
and I have a GPS,
Well, me too.
but he hasn't. And he doesn't even have, because the new phone number, I got it after I got arrested and like 3 days after.
Something, no, I was gonna say, something does pop in your head, would you please tell your attorney?
Yes.
Yeah, if you recall a lot of detail for your attorney, but you don't want it before, if it comes up in your head.
Okay, but I don't know where Jennifer is. I
Just,
mean,
just tell us where he goes.
But of course,
Did
it doesn't
anybody
know.
know?
The car has a plug, and the car
What
was
does the
there.
office do? But we try to keep it.
Her mom got a call from the Chuck, who is Fotis' niece in Greece. In which she said, don't show. So there was no, I mean, it just happened to be yesterday. It's just,
I don't know why. I should know. Trying to do everything. Worthily is,
I don't know.
whatever's up there is not,
It's like,
not this. Doesn't come from here.
okay, well, as you can see, nothing comes from me.
None of that comes from.
You know, I had to explain to Michelle and her family that I don't do that. It's wrong.
Yeah.
So,
We did, you say, what? Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I would suspect he's gonna try something else at some point. He's looking pretty, not so good immediately. I mean, as far as just physically, he looks rather drawn, pale. Also, he doesn't look good. I don't know if you've seen any of it. No, I hope if something does enter your mind and you realize it makes sense now in light of something else, please tell your attorney, all right? This should be the last time.
you try to do this.
Let your memory explode.
Until things that obviously talking, you kind of understand, like moves or situations.
Front for you. Or take it home. Is it just there? I should put that. Well, this isn't hard at all, ladies.
Well, you know, look,
Her point of view is the marks,
she's very frightened of it. The truth is that she knows what mistakes are, and she
Yeah, there's-
So I, look, so I can tell you.
we see it from that, so. If we're actually very next to you, I can understand it feels the way it feels. Other people have had problems. Do you need anything right now, or bathroom? Okay. Thanks again. Okay. It's okay.
Guys, we're gonna end it there.
Detective Kimball, the defendant indicated during the interview that there was one room in particular in the house that had the best service. Do you recall which room that was?
Was the office, the four-group office,
And where did the defendant answer the phone call on Mr. Dulos' phone that particular morning?
in the four-group office.
And who did she indicate that she, strike that, who did she indicate was the name that came up on the caller ID?
Andreas.
This is State's Exhibit 75, Your Honor, which has been admitted as a full exhibit. Detective Kimball, could you just indicate to the jury what we're looking at here?
This is a timeline that the defendant indicated was completed by Fotis Dulos for Friday, May 24th, 2019.
And I want to direct your attention now to this line here, beginning with 8:27. Andres called and spoke briefly. And this was Mr. Dulos' timeline?
Yes,
Did the defendant indicate whether or not she had ever read Mr. Dulos' timeline during the third interview?
indicated she had not.
This is State 74, which is multiple documents. And just for the record, I'm displaying the document that begins with a time entry of 6:40. What are we looking at here, Detective?
This is a photocopy of a timeline that the defendant indicated she had prepared for Friday, May 24th, 2019.
And I want to direct your attention to between 8:12 and 8:30. Is there any indication on this timeline that the defendant answered
Your
Mr.
Honor,
Dulos' phone?
I'm going to object to asking things that are not in a document. That's inappropriate. You can ask what the document is, but you don't
Well,
take the document and say what's
all
in
you
it.
have to do, Counselor State Brown.
Yeah.
In the video, the defendant indicated that she saw a name appear on the screen. She was asked by Captain Mulwenny whether she was going to answer the call. She picked up the phone and heard static. So the state's question goes to whether there is an inconsistency. Overruled.
Detective Kimball, is there any indication in the defendant's timeline that she answered Mr. Dulos' phone that morning?
Between 8:12 and 8:30, there's no indication that she answered Mr. Dulos' phone when Andreas called.
Oh. Is there any indication in this timeline that the defendant lit a fire at 4 Jefferson Crossing on May 24th, 2019?
There is
Same-
not.
Same objection, Your Honor.
Overruled.
Sorry, you can answer.
There is not.
Returning 74 and 75 to clerk. If I can just have a moment, Your Honor.
Yes.
Nothing further, Judge.
Cross-examination.
Oh, I'm sorry. Tracer.
No, you can leave it on for now. You can leave it on. I'll stay away from it for the time being. Officer Kimball, by August 13th, you had spoken with Michelle Troconis on at least 2 prior occasions that we saw, correct?
That's correct, yes.
You had spent a couple of hours with her attorney on the afternoon of Sunday, June 2nd, while she was still in custody, right?
Correct.
The second time, as you previously testified, this was at her lawyer's office in Westport after she had been released and the charges were pending, correct?
That's correct, yes.
Now, 2 weeks, and then August 13th is what we were just watching, correct? She came back at that point, right?
Yes, that's correct.
And of course, for purpose of timeline, approximately 2 weeks after that, you applied for an arrest warrant for what happened against her as to what happened at the car wash in Avon, right?
I believe so, yes.
Around September 1st of
Yes.
2019. I'm just trying to get the time frame here, right?
Yes.
Right?
Yes,
And in between June 6th and August 13th, you had actually done a considerable amount of additional investigation, correct?
that's correct.
And when I say you, I don't mean just you, but an entire, shall we say, almost a company of state police and New Canaan officers, right?
There were many troopers and detectives involved, yes.
And as I understand it, you also enlisted the aid of Fairfield Police, or these certain officers, to do certain electronic assistance.
We went through the TIU, which is comprised of different towns
I think
Yes.
the Stratford Police were involved too, an officer there.
at some point, yes.
And there were, it wasn't just detectives, but you had, I think, cadaver and canine dogs searching all these properties, correct?
We had the K-9 unit, yes, correct.
You had, I guess, divers, state police divers checking the pond in a few other places, right?
Yes,
You had also interviewed all the, or many of the people that Michelle Troconis had mentioned during her other interviews, correct?
I'm not sure of the exact timing those interviews were conducted, but we were certainly involved in checking, corroborating her stories.
In other words, what I'm trying to get at is there was a substantial amount of continuing investigation being done between June 6th, the last time you met with her, and August 13th. Is that right?
That's fair to say, yes.
In fact, there was, as I can see in the video, you were actually had some kind of a chart in front of you that you were using to question her, right?
I had it available, yes.
And it was some kind of, I think I've seen it, but it's some kind of your own timeline with various stages and information you had obtained from different sources, right?
What it is it's a spreadsheet, and it had a subtopic, and then it had interview 1, interview 2. So it's not really a timeline, but
Well,
it's a chart of the information she provided on different occasions.
you use that as a point of reference to ask questions, correct? During the interview on the 13th, right?
I don't remember if I used that specific document. I may have.
In any event, you didn't share that with Michelle during that third interview, did you?
No.
In other words, she didn't get to review what she had said or what your questions were on the prior occasions for purposes of the August 13th interview, right?
I didn't show her the chart.
As we just saw, Michelle at no point said, I want to stop the interview on August 13th, did she?
No, she did not.
She at one point towards the end said she's willing to go all night and keep answering questions, right?
She did say that.
Well, you ran out of questions, right?
We ended the interview.
No, she didn't end it, you ended it.
Yes.
And she never refused to answer any of the questions you were asking, not one.
Refuse? No, she didn't refuse.
Unlike when her lawyer asked for a break in the second interview, here, at least from what we saw, there were no breaks during the entire interrogation, right?
I'm sorry, which interview were we
This
discussing?
one, August 13th.
Oh, there was a break.
There is a break in the middle from that we saw last week, right?
Yes.
Okay, but who asked for that break?
I think we offered it, and it was taken up by, it was accepted by Attorney Bowman. May have been Attorney Bowman. I don't remember who specifically said.
My point being, at no point did Michelle say, I want to take a break.
No.
During this interview, there were at least a couple of times on the screen, on the video, where you admitted that you made a mistake or may have made a mistake on some things, correct?
That's fair to say, yes.
One of the things had to do with the weather on the early morning hours of May 24th. Do you remember last Friday, you said you may have been wrong about the weather, and you'll admit when you make a mistake. Remember saying that?
I do remember saying that, yes.
Now, the last time you testified, though, didn't you sort of reiterate your belief, though, that it didn't rain that night based on your looking at a weather app?
I object. This characterizes the testimony, Judge.
Well, the witness can answer yes or no. Overruled.
Could you repeat the question?
Yes. Do you recall when you were here back, now it's been a week or two, that you thought that you were correct about the weather because you'd look up the Weather Underground app?
I put forth information at the time I believed to be true.
But when you met with her on August 13th, you admitted that you may have been wrong about that, and you were willing to admit it.
I admitted that I may have been wrong.
Now, did you say that on August 13th just to go along, or were you sincere in the fact that you were admitting an error?
I was admitting that I may have been in error.
Okay. The same techniques that were used on the prior interviews, you used some of those interrogation techniques during this third interview as well, correct?
Yes,
Some of the things you said were deliberately false to catch the reaction, right?
yes,
And some things you asked, you just didn't know what was the answer and you just wanted to see what she had to say, correct?
I'm sorry, can you ask that one more time?
Yes,
Just
there were
wanna make
some
sure.
things that you asked that you didn't have an answer for, but you were asking to see if she could provide.
It's the nature of questioning a defendant to elicit information. That's what we're trying to do.
Well, at some points, at least two, I heard that you indicate that you as police knew more than she knew, but some of it you weren't going to share with her. Remember using words, something to
To
that effect.
yes.
Right. But I'm trying to distinguish between things that you actually knew and weren't telling her versus things you didn't know at all.
Well, I'm going to object, Judge. There's not a question being posed.
Well, as the court heard the question, the court heard it this way. There were questions that were asked by the interviewers for which the interviewers did not know the answers. Isn't that true? That's the question.
And that's the nature of an interview, to elicit information.
Now, there were a number of times when Mr. McGinnis, both today and last week on Friday, stopped the video to ask you a question in the nature of, well, you heard Ms. Troconis tell you this on August 13th. Did she tell you something similar about that on June 6th or on June 2nd? Do you remember the nature of those questions, right?
In general, I do, yes.
Now, one of the things that that Mr. McGinnis asked you about was the car wash in Avon, that whether she mentioned anything about the car wash in Avon in prior interviews. Remember Mr. McGinnis asking you that the other day?
Yes,
Now, of course, you did not ask a single question of Ms. Troconis where she was on May 29th, 2019 during the first two interviews, did you?
we asked her for information surrounding the disappearance of Mother of Five, all the information that she had, and we were reinforced with her to give us everything that she had.
Do you remember my question, sir?
Can you restate it?
Yes. Do you remember, did you ask her a single question about what she was doing on May 29th, 2019 during those previous two interviews?
No, we did not.
Did you indicate to her there was a question about why she or Dulos were at a car wash in Avon on May 29th, 2019 during your first or second interview?
We didn't know about it during those interviews,
So you didn't ask about it.
so we didn't ask about it.
You didn't ask anything about the red Tacoma of Pavel's Tacoma on those first two interviews, did you? Until she brought it up, right?
She brought it up generally in the first interview.
Is that your answer?
I'm
sure.
thinking, trying to give you a complete answer. I don't remember asking her during the first and second interview specifically about the Tacoma. But
But she
again,
fu-
that falls under the
Go ahead, sorry.
information that we're asking for that we don't know about. There are no known unknowns, and that's what we're seeking.
Well, didn't Ms. Troconis multiple times tell you she doesn't know what you want to know or what you consider important or not?
She knows what she did that day,
Well,
and that's important to us.
Well, did she know what she did that day, or are you assuming she knew what she did that day?
I don't know how she couldn't have known what she did that day.
And that's your opinion.
Well, I'm going to object, Judge. It's argumentative.
Well, it is argumentative, but the comment, that's your opinion, is stricken.
Sometimes she told you things and you cut her off and told her it wasn't relevant. Didn't we hear that at least twice during this interview?
Probably, I didn't count that.
Well, specifically, when you asked her questions about the license plate, didn't she tell you she knew nothing about this old license plate that belonged to Mr. Dulos? And you told her, we don't care about that? Do you remember saying
I
that?
remember saying that, no,
You don't.
I do not.
Could have been Detective Clabb, you said, it's not important, we don't care about that.
During the third interview?
Yeah.
I remember that.
Sometimes she would be telling you stuff and you would, clearly, one of you would stop her and change the subject, right?
There were times that occurred, yes.
Because you didn't think what she was telling you was pertinent to what you wanted to know, right?
We were trying to keep her on topic, and she was obviously going off topic.
Well, you had already obtained some of the video surveillance from the neighbors by June 1st and June 2nd of 2019, hadn't you?
Yes,
But you never asked Ms. Troconis during the first or even the second interview if she ever built a fire in her fireplace during those interviews, did you?
We were unaware of the fire at that time. So no, we didn't ask about it.
You hadn't gathered the surveillance video from across the street from 1 Jefferson Crossing?
I was unaware of the fire events on the 24th of May, so I didn't ask questions about them.
But my question is, didn't officers and detectives already obtain the surveillance video from across the street
I don't know what date those were obtained off the top of my head.
or from next door to Jefferson Crossing? Did you have that by then?
Again, I don't know what date those were gathered.
But after the first 2 interviews, you confirmed or checked out things that she had told you, and you mentioned that during this 3rd interview, didn't you?
Yes,
You decided which information she told you was something you wanted to confirm or not bother with, right?
I don't understand what you mean by you decided.
You were at this point, the lead detective on this investigation, right?
I was.
So you made the decision what you would want to confirm, right?
A group of us did, including myself,
And as the lead detective, who would you then consult with to make that determination?
my sergeant, Ken Petreska.
So between you and Sergeant Ventresca decided what to follow up with and whether to assign officers to do that, right?
So there were a lot of follow-ups, and I wasn't aware of all of them. I personally did not make decisions on which follow-ups would be performed.
Well, before August 13th, you had reviewed my client's AT&T records, hadn't you?
Well, Judge, I'm going to object. I think we need a sidebar on this.
Talking about the AT&T phone records, you had gotten them by the time of this 3rd interview and reviewed them, right?
The AT&T records for,
Ms. Troconis's phone.
yes, I believe so.
So you knew, for example, that there were calls from the Enterprise rental car place on the morning of Tuesday, May 28th, right?
I didn't know that specifically, but they would have been reflected in the records.
By then, you had also reviewed or had other officers review the various surveillance videos that we've seen, correct?
I'd like to pose an objection sidebar.
Do you recall my question about the surveillance videos?
I did not, sir.
Okay. So you and or Sergeant Ventresca had assigned numerous officers to check all along the route between Fort Jefferson Crossing down to 80 Mountain Spring, see who might have any kind of cameras, right?
Yes,
So some of them had continuous recorded cameras, right?
correct.
Some of them had what I'll call motion activated cameras, right?
Yes,
So that when we see, for example, from across the street, something only records when you see a dog or a cat or a person pull into the property, correct?
you're referring to one Jefferson
One
looking at,
Jefferson.
yeah, that was a motion to activated ring camera.
Right. So it catches snippets of things that are going on during the course of a day.
Yes,
The cameras down on Mountain Spring Road, on 77 Mountain Spring Road that you were pointing to on Friday, those were continuous action or were they also motion activated? They just lasted longer?
I don't know, I'm not sure. So I don't want to answer that. I'm not sure if they were continuous or motion activated.
In any event, you were asked at least to point out the particular travels that you were able to, of vehicles that you were able to point out from that camera, correct?
Yes, yes,
And that's the one that's off by, I think, 1 day and 10 minutes, I think is the
Yes,
deadline, right?
24 hours and 10 minutes.
You had also had a chance by August 13th to review numerous witness statements, correct?
Yes,
You had reviewed what Pavel Gumieni had said in 3 separate interviews, right?
yes,
Including an 8-hour interview with Sergeant Butin and Detective Allegro, correct?
correct.
And I think his lawyer was present for that
Lindy
third
Urso,
one, right?
yes.
I'm sorry.
Lindy Urso, his
Yes,
attorney.
was present in that entire interview. right?
That's correct.
And when you met with Michelle Troconis on August 13th, 2019, you did not share the contents of those interviews with her, correct?
Shared portions of them.
You mentioned certain things that other people had said, right?
We mentioned-
Snippets.
Of what Pavel Gomeni had said, yes.
But when you said that, when you had told her, for example, that there was blood on the Tacoma steering wheel, and on the door, I think you indicated that those were either mistakes or falsehoods. Would you just clarify that for me, please?
First of all, I didn't indicate there was blood on the passenger door of the Tacoma.
You were asked today when you were asked whether there was any DNA on the doors, and you had indicated that that was incorrect or there was none found, right?
There were no profiles found from the Tacoma door, probably because of the cleaning.
Well, you told Ms. Troconis during the interview that the luminol proved there was blood all over the door when officers went in and took pictures, right?
I didn't tell her that. And
I'm sorry, who was that? Detective Clabby telling her that?
yes,
Oh, you didn't contradict Detective Clabby though, did you, in the interview?
no,
And today you admitted that they found no evidence of any DNA of any sort on the door, correct?
luminol is blood. It's not DNA. Luminol interacts with blood, amongst other
All
things.
right, well, I know you're not a scientist.
I'm not
okay?
a scientist now. I
Did
don't
did
play
you know
electric.
there's DNA in blood?
Yes,
Okay, so that we're clear, whether it's blood or we're talking about DNA, if there was blood on the door that they were able to recover, there would have been DNA from that blood, right?
not necessarily.
In any event, we went over this with other people. The luminol does not prove that there was blood on the door, right?
Judge, I'm just going to object at this point.
Well,
Foundation.
the question to this witness about the efficacy of a screening test is not relevant.
Your
Ask
Honor,
this witness whether he knows is not relevant.
in the video that we just watched, you have, I guess, Detective Clabby saying, you see what this luminol that shows indicates that blood was there. And then you or he asked Ms. Troconis, whose blood is it? And she either shrugs or puts her hand up and says, Jennifer. Isn't that how that interaction went across?
So I didn't have Detective Clabby say anything. That was all on his own. So what he said was up to him. But he did say that there was luminol positive on the door. And then he said luminol is something that we use to look for the presence of blood.
But you used her answer to that question as in a warrant affidavit that you prepared to say she admitted that Jennifer's blood was on the door, didn't you?
Yes.
And that wasn't true though, was it?
So in the warrant, I didn't actually indicate that her blood was on the door. I said that the presence of Jennifer's body was in the vehicle.
No, didn't you specifically say that she was told that blood was on the door, that Ms. Troconis told you that Jennifer's blood was on the door of the Tacoma? Isn't that what you wrote?
May I see what I wrote? That way I can refresh my
You don't
memory.
recall what you wrote?
I don't recall. I have several warrants for this case, so I don't recall now.
All right, well, I'll get to that in a minute. We'll get back to that. By the way, when Michelle this time brought up that you said that there were 30 stops, and it was you this time that said, well, whether it was 6 or 30 or some other number in between, doesn't matter. Do you remember saying words to that effect that we just heard today?
I don't know, they said it didn't matter, but I do remember saying there was a span of stops.
But again, as of today, you still don't know who told you there were 30 stops where trash was discovered.
No, I don't know that.
You would keep note if my client told you something that contradicted what you had heard from other people, right?
Say that again?
You would note if Michelle said something to you that it contradicted something that someone else had said, right?
Yeah, yes, I would.
But you didn't know at the time whether it was what she was telling you was accurate or what the other people were telling you,
Judge, I'm
was
going to
right?
object to asking you to opine on the accuracy of other people's information.
To the
Well,
contrary.
Apparently, the question is, if other people told you something that contradicted what Michelle Troconis told you at the third interview, you would bring that up. That's how the court understands the question.
Right.
And the objection is,
Well, Judge, the question was phrased somewhat differently. He indicated you have no idea whether or not what my client said was accurate or what someone else said was accurate. I don't think the detective should be opining on the accuracy of other people's, other declarants' accuracy.
well, the court understood the question differently. As the court stated, the court understood the question to be when other people essentially reported something that contradicted what Michelle Troconis said to you at that third interview, you would bring that to her attention. At least that was the preliminary question. So the court will allow that question.
Would you re-ask, Counselor,
Sure.
please?
When somebody told you something that contradicted what Michelle was saying to you or said to you, did you bring that to her attention?
At times,
But not all the time, right?
no.
She also volunteered stuff and told you stuff that you didn't know about, right?
Again, that's the nature of a interview. We're seeking for information.
But
Looking
for
for
example,
truthful information.
today you were asked by Mr. McGinnis, had Ms. Troconis mentioned picking up the phone at 4 Jefferson Crossing on the morning of May 24th, 2019? Do you recall him asking you whether she had previously mentioned that to you?
It's different than what she said in the second interview.
No, my question is, did he ask you whether or not she had mentioned that in her first or second interviews?
He did not. Oh, she did not.
The question is, did he ask you that today?
Oh, yes, he did.
But she is the one who told you, she picked up the phone when it was answered, correct?
Again, that's
Call
not
from
what
Greece.
she told us in the second interview. I don't know which interview you're talking about. She said in the second interview, she didn't know where the phone was. She thought it was Fotis. In the third interview, she indicated she picked up the phone. It rang. She picked it up and it was Andreas.
She did tell you that Fotis Dulos, that Kent Mawhinney was in the office though, didn't she previously?
Yes.
And she told you today, in what we watched today, that when the phone rang, Mr. Mawhinney looked at her and said, aren't you going to answer it? Or words to that effect, right?
That's what she claimed, yes.
Now you checked with the neighbors. You knew that Kent Mawhinney was at the house at that time, correct?
Yes.
So there's actually video from across the street, correct? From the Swanson's house at 1 Jefferson Crossing, right?
I don't know that for a fact.
Well, didn't somebody go through all of the videos or evidence?
I didn't, so I don't know that for a fact.
Is this the one?
Well, before we proceed, the witness has already admitted that investigators knew that Kent Mawhinney was at 4 Jefferson Crossing. So the court would want to know what the purpose of this offer would be, since there was an admission that he already knew that Kent Mawhinney was at 4 Jefferson Crossing.
Well, on Friday, the jury got to see for maybe the 8th time video of people traveling back and forth. They had 2 videos, 30 seconds each, which already were in evidence, but I'm separately marking them so the jury wouldn't have to go through the 30 or 40 clips. And I'm just going to show the witness.
Does it concern Kent Mawhinney being at 4 Jefferson Crossing?
Yes.
Well, the witness has already admitted that. He discovered through investigation that Kent Mawhinney was at 4 Jefferson Crossing.
But the jury hasn't seen the specific video during
Well,
cross-examination.
it's unnecessarily cumulative. It's not to contradict the witness. It's to affirm what the witness just said.
But cross-examination is not just contradiction, Your Honor. It's to affirm and supplement, if you will.
The state's not objecting.
I don't have an objection, Judge.
So this is KK. We have to restart it. Restart. One of the areas where, and when it restarts, I'll just go back to that. Right? One of the areas where Michelle told you things that you testified were conflicting had to do with where Fotis Dulos was in the early morning hours of 4 Jefferson Crossing. That is in the 6 to 8 o'clock in the morning period, correct?
I'm sorry, re-ask that,
Yeah.
please.
One of the things that you testified to on Friday that you believe was conflicting was what Michelle had told you previously and what she was saying on August 13th about where Fotis Dulos was in the early morning hours of May 24th, 2019.
You're talking about when she woke up?
When she woke
whether
up
he
and
was there or
came down to the bedroom in the bathroom.
Whether he was there or not in the shower?
Well, whether he's in the shower, whether he's there, just there, period, right?
Yes.
Now, you believed, and one of you, either you or Detective Clabby, said that he was down in Buchanan that morning, right?
I don't remember.
Can you clarify what review you're referring to at this point?
Yeah. In the third interview,
Okay.
you stated in words that you believe that he couldn't be there because he was down in Buchanan committing an offense, right?
It was our belief, yeah. Yes,
And you agree that he could not be in 2 places at once, right?
of course not.
You had already told Michelle on at least 2 previous occasions that she was wrong or false when she said he was there, right? That he was in Farmington that morning, right?
I don't know how many occasions we told her that she was wrong, but it was our belief that she was not being truthful with us.
But she also had told you previously that maybe she was wrong. Didn't she say that?
Well, again, I'm going to object to her to the vagueness of the question. Maybe she was wrong about what.
About where Mr. Dulos was that morning on May 24th.
Which interview?
I think the question needs to be sharpened, Judge.
Well, it was being sharpened at the same time the objection was being made. So,
I'll rephrase it. Didn't she tell you after you told her certain things such as about the DNA, the science rather, that she may have been wrong and thought that he was home that morning?
And I object, Judge. It did not indicate which interview. There's 3 interviews.
I'm talking about previous to August 13th. Didn't she already say that to you?
So again, I object.
overruled.
So in interview 2, she claimed initially that Fotis was there that morning. And then she admitted that she didn't see him that morning.
But she may have been wrong, but she thought he had been there, right?
I don't remember her saying she may have been wrong. She certainly gave conflicting stories.
Now, by the 3rd interview on August 13th, you came right up the bat and said, "Are you going to admit that you lied to us?" Or words to that effect.
That you were less than truthful. Yes.
But she said, "I would not call that a lie." Didn't she say that to you?
Objection, Judge. Mischaracterizes the evidence.
Well, this witness can determine how this witness wishes to respond. So this witness can respond in any way this witness thinks under oath is truthful. So overruled.
Isn't that true? That she said she would not call that a lie?
The way that you phrased your question skips over her admission that she was lying.
Did she specifically say she was not lying, that she said she would not call it a lie?
That's when she said yes to the answer to the question of whether you were being less than truthful. Are you willing to admit that? She says yes. And then she characterized it as something other than a lie, which I'm not sure what it would be other than a lie.
Okay. Didn't she also tell you that based on what you had told her, he couldn't have been there that morning?
Again, she doesn't see him. So she can arrive at her own conclusions of whether he's there or not.
My question is, didn't we all hear in this August 13th interview that you said, based on what you've told me, he could not have been there?
I believe I do remember her saying that, yes.
It's about 1 o'clock. We're going to do is stand in our lunch and recess until 2 o'clock. Ladies and gentlemen, please do not discuss the case.
Okay, let's see about skipping over the lunch break here. Oh, looks like we've got some more video coming up.
Would counsel stipulate, please?
Yes, Judge. Yes. So before the break, Officer Kimball, we were going to show you a couple of videos, and I think now I'll just show you them this is from the surveillance at from 1 Jefferson crossing across the street.
Okay.
Okay. I can do it now. There. Takes about 30 seconds. Right, and for the record, this is from exhibit, before you play it, this is from exhibit KK, and you're familiar, you already saw you've shown us some of the videos that were taken from the Ring doorbell across the street from 1 Jefferson, correct?
Yes, correct.
And this is one for the record. It's marked as video 3 on this exhibit, but the time you'll note in the bottom right-hand corner is May 24th, 2019 at 7:21 and 9 seconds in the morning. You see that there?
Yes.
All right, so we're going to play that, please. Could you pause it for a second? Now, we're pausing it at 7:21 and, well, we'll just say at second 20 to the left there on the orange line there. I'll first note, this was you'll recall, May 24th was a Friday, correct?
Correct.
And we see that the garbage pails are out in front of both 1 Jefferson and at 4 Jefferson Crossing, right?
Correct.
So by this time, you were aware that garbage pickup day was Friday in this part of Farmington, right?
Correct.
Okay. I'll call your attention to the vehicle that is now pulling in across the street. You see that, right?
I do.
And you determined that that vehicle belonged to Kent Mawhinney. Is that right?
I didn't determine that.
Nobody in your department determined that that was Kent Mawhinney's SUV?
Well,
pulling
it's
in?
consistent with Kent Mawhinney's SUV, yes,
Okay,
but
and
definitively,
it was not consistent with a Ford Raptor, was it?
no,
It was not consistent with a Chevy Suburban that was owned by the Ford Group, right?
correct.
And it was not consistent with a rental Yukon, right?
No,
Okay.
but the Yukon wasn't rented at the,
Of course, but I'm just pointing out that it was not one of the Ford Group or Dulos vehicles.
yes,
Okay.
correct.
Can you play the rest of it, please? Okay, and I'm going to show you one other video. This was Mr. Troconis said that she came back to her house after dropping off her daughter to school, correct? To
Correct.
school. All right, so now we're at, pause for a second, and we're now at, for the record, May 24th at 8:01 and 54 seconds. Same date. Can you pause it, please? The vehicle that we're pulling in at now, the exhibit is at 45 seconds if we're looking at the line from the left there. Is that the vehicle that's consistent with the white Cherokee? That's one of the Ford Group vehicles.
It is, yes.
Okay. And pause again for a second. Now, there's a pickup truck driving by. That pickup truck that's caught in this particular image is not related in any way, to your knowledge, to either the case or to the Dulos home, correct?
That's correct,
Okay,
correct,
it's just a truck driving by.
yes.
Okay. Now, also just before the break, I asked you whether or not you had indicated as part of your affidavit regarding the arrest of Michelle Troconis in September for the car wash, the washing of the Tacoma, whether you mentioned in that warrant that Michelle had said words to the effect of, well, obviously, when asked by you why she thought Dulos would be washing the Tacoma, her reply was, well, obviously, all the evidence says, because you showed me the picture of the blood in the door, it's because the body of Jennifer at some point was in there, unquote. Do you remember
Yes,
that being your language?
yes, no,
Okay, I found this, do you need to see it now? You
No.
know that's what it says, right?
yes,
Okay, so let me just be clear. There was never any scientific laboratory analysis that determined that there was any blood on the door of the Tacoma, correct?
my understanding is that there was the presence of blood, but the DNA profile was not developed, so
So-
we don't know whose blood it was.
So let me get this straight.
Again, I'm not a scientist.
Are you sure that, based on what you're saying, is that in fact the lab did not test nor find any blood on the door of the Tacoma was tested by the state lab?
I'm not sure, to be fair.
You did not write in any report that blood was found on the door of the Tacoma, did you?
No, I did not.
Now, with regard to the what you had indicated to Michelle regarding the findings of the laboratory personnel down from what was recovered at Wells Lane in New Canaan, by now you had much of the DNA analysis by August, correct?
Correct.
And you were also aware that the only place that there was the location of any mixture of blood that contained any, let me withdraw that question and ask it a different way. You were aware that by August 13th, that there was a mixture of DNA found in a faucet that may have included Fotis Dulos with another person, correct?
Yes,
And the other person was believed to be Jennifer Dulos's DNA found on that same faucet, correct?
yes,
But you never were able to determine how the DNA got on that faucet, correct?
no, I don't determine how it gets on, I just
Just that it
read
was
the
a fact
laboratory that it was present.
that it was present, okay. But by now you also had spoken to the individual who was the supervised visitation custodian, correct?
Dennis Puebla or Sidney Streeter?
Sidney Streeter, right?
Yes,
And you knew that the Mr. Dulos had a picnic, sort of what I call a picnic, had dinner at the house, correct?
yes,
And that in fact he had interacted with his wife on the 22nd, right?
yes,
And he had interacted and played with the children, right?
Yes.
When we were here on Friday, we watched a number of videos of the comings and goings of the vehicles from 80 Mountain Spring, correct?
Yes,
You were asked to narrate, if you will, some of the exhibits and some of the time frame of the vehicles coming and going.
that's
right?
correct.
Were you also aware that there was an image of the Tacoma leaving the 80 Mountain Spring property at approximately 5:30 a.m. on the 24th,
Was I aware?
Yeah.
When?
when you were interviewing Michelle on August 13th, 2019?
I don't remember when we determined, when we saw that video, so I can't answer that.
All right. You didn't ask her any questions about that travel or transportation of that vehicle on that morning and that day, did you?
We're talking about the Tacoma?
The Tacoma leaving 80 Mountain Spring Road, it looks like around 5:30 in the morning on that day.
I don't think we had that information, so I didn't ask her specifically about that.
Well, didn't you?
Leg.
I thought when you were here on Friday, we watched a bunch of back and forth from 77 Mountain Spring Road and you narrated that.
Yes,
Had you seen any of that by the August 13th, 2019?
Just gonna pose an objection. I don't think that particular video was-
That could be
Well,
wrong, but I don't think it was.
It's up to the jury's memory as to whether it was played, and the objection is overruled.
sorry, could you read?
Yes, had you seen any of those videos that we watched on Friday from 77 Mountain Spring Road when you were interviewing Michelle Troconis on August 13th,
I had-
2019?
I'd seen some of them, yes.
But not the one where the vehicle is leaving at 5:30 in the morning of Tacoma?
I don't believe I'd seen that at that point on August 13th.
In any event, you had no information of anyone arriving during the night of May 23rd, no, withdrawn. You had no information of anyone arriving in the night, beginning in the night of May 24th, 2019, to 80 Mountain Spring Road before the Tacoma left the property. Is that correct? As of the August 13th interview?
Well, someone would have had to arrive in order to drive the vehicle out.
My question, did you see any video of anyone arriving?
No.
And I'm not sure I asked you this question. If I did, I apologize. You were aware that the 77 Mountain Spring Road surveillance cameras were continuous, or was that stop action?
I'm unaware of that. You did ask, and I'm unsure
Okay.
whether they're motion activated or not.
You didn't see any cars entering before 5:30 in the morning, that early morning, did you?
On the 24th?
Yes.
No,
You didn't see any bicycles entering, did you?
no,
You didn't see any pedestrians entering, correct?
correct.
There were a number of questions about Fotis Dulos leaving the house to go buy meat. Do you recall that part of the interrogation?
I do.
And in fact, your department confirmed surveillance of him going to the Stop and Shop and going in, right?
He was president of Stop and Shop during that time frame. Yes.
And there was also a time on the evening of the 23rd before getting to the Stop and Shop, where he stopped again at 80 Mountain Spring. Isn't that true?
That's true.
And this was, I think the discussion you had with Ms. Troconis was about a dinner party at their house on May 23rd, correct?
Correct.
And him going to 80 Mountain Spring Road, and it was in the Suburban that he
It
traveled,
was in suburban. Yes.
and it had a roof rack on it.
The Thule wreck. Yes.
And then the same vehicle was seen at the Stop and Shop parking, right?
Yes.
And he was seen going into the Stop and Shop, right?
That's correct.
And buying something,
Correct.
and then traveling back up to sometime after 6 p.m. to Fort Jefferson Crossing, right?
Yes.
And by the way, you did interview prior to August 13th, 2019, the people who had been at the dinner party at the Dulos home on the evening before, right?
Again, I don't remember the specific dates that those interviews were conducted. We may have done that prior to the 13th of August. I don't remember what dates they were interviewed.
And they were certainly, just their names, I'm not gonna ask you what they said, but you talked to Stephen Reich,
Correct.
his then girlfriend, maybe now she's his wife, I don't know, Beth Johnson,
I didn't speak to her. I'm not sure if someone else did, but I know I didn't.
Mr. Haynes, Robert
Hutch
Hutch Haynes, the owner of the water skiing thing, right?
He was interviewed at some point. Yes.
And his wife, Erin, right?
Correct.
And they all were talked about in the video, weren't they?
They were.
You asked a few questions about Kent Mawhinney during this interview, didn't you?
Whether I asked or Detective Clabby asked, but yeah, there were questions asked about Kent.
Now, were you aware when you were questioning Michelle on August 13th that there was a phone call between Fotis Dulos and Kent Mawhinney while he was out of the house, going to the Stop and Shop?
Were we aware? I believe that was on Mr. Dulos's phone records. So yes.
And to your knowledge, Mr. Mawhinney wasn't a guest at the dinner party that night at the house, was he?
To our knowledge, no.
Incidentally, when we showed you that video a few minutes ago of the vehicle consistent with Kent Mawhinney's SUV arriving at 4 Jefferson Crossing, were you ever able to determine when his vehicle left from any of the surveillance?
From the surveillance?
Yes.
I don't believe so.
Again, because it was motion activated, right?
I think we determined that through the phone records.
It would only from the Mawhinney's phone records. Right. But in any event, the only time you would get the video is if, like I said, there was some movement that would trigger,
In the foreground of the ring, correct?
and that would be true whether it was somebody coming or going, whoever it was, right?
Yes,
It didn't capture every time a person arrived or departed, correct?
correct.
And it also didn't show all the times or necessarily when there might have been other times that a fire was in the fireplace, would it?
You're saying there could have been more fires than were shown?
Yeah.
That's absolutely true, yes.
Let me just ask you some questions regarding what was asked on August 13th that you related back to the June 6th interview at Attorney Bowman's office. You had, on that occasion, so that everybody recalls, it was not just you and Detective Clabby, correct?
On the 6th, yes,
On the
correct.
6th. There was Sergeant Ventresca was there, right?
Yes,
He was even then your supervisor on this investigation,
yes,
correct?
throughout he was.
And there was I forget her name, there was a
Detective Allison
female
Peters.
detective.
Detective Allison Peters.
And for part of the time, State's Attorney Colangelo was present, correct?
Yes,
And for those who don't remember, he was the state's attorney for this district here, the chief law enforcement officer, right?
yes,
And on that August 13th, during that August 13th interview, you brought up some of the things that Michelle had said, or at least you claimed she had said on June 6th. Isn't that right?
yes. During the 8/13 interview, we brought up some material from the 6th of June, yes.
Did you say on August 13th to Michelle that you didn't want her to bring up the timeline that she had written? Did you tell her that?
I'm sorry, which?
On August 13th, did you tell her you didn't want her to bring up her timeline again?
I don't remember saying that on August 13th, no.
Did you say it on any of those occasions?
I believe I said it on June 6th.
Oh, so well, let me just be clear. Is that the time that you said that if she brings it up, you've been instructed by the state's attorney to leave, correct?
If she starts going down the timeline, that was the instructions from the 6th attorney.
Okay,
We
and you didn't
didn't
just make that
leave.
up. Was that just you saying that, or was that the actual instruction? you had?
No, I did not make that up. That was,
That was an instruction.
but we didn't leave. Even
No, I
though she went down
understand.
the timeline.
Even though she did bring it up, right?
Yes,
And you brought it up at some times too, according to what we just watched, right?
yes,
And you showed her Fotis Dulos' timeline, right?
we did. Yep.
And she had said previously she hadn't seen his version.
She said during the second interview on June 6th that she had not read Fotis's timeline.
And you gave her a copy on August 13th. So in the video, we see her reading it, right?
Yes, Detective Clabby shows it to her.
And she didn't say she had seen it before you showed it to her on June 6th, did she?
Did she say? Just ask that one more time. I just want to make sure.
She never said she had seen it before you had shown it to her on June 6th, did she?
No.
What she said was that Fotis Dulos was trying to tell her certain things to say, like he was saying things out loud that he was hoping she would include, right?
Which she did, the shower in her timeline.
But he put stuff on his timeline. He had nothing to do with that. Was on Michelle's, right?
Yes, your client completed her timeline. He completed his.
And you don't know in time frame when he put in all these extra things after she left, as she said, to go to the enterprise rental car to bring in her vehicle or get a rental car. Right?
Well, the question is, essentially, when the defendant went to Enterprise Rent-A-Car
Mhm.
concerning, call them items in the timeline, that, this is how the court understood it, were not there when she left, that was there when she came back. And the question is, counsel,
The question is, Michelle never said that she saw Dulos add anything to his timeline that he had copied from hers. Did she?
and the objection, the court's not sure that wasn't the question.
It was not the question, Judge. I'm not sure.
The previous question, which I rephrased based on your honor's question, was whether or not Dulos may have added stuff to his timeline after she left to go to the enterprise rental car.
So the question is, does this witness
Yeah.
know whether Fotis Dulos added something to his timeline?
Right.
After Michelle Troconis left to go to the Enterprise Rent-A-Car. You have an objection?
So based on that, Judge, I would object to foundation lack of personal knowledge on how you know that.
Well, the question is, does this witness know whether that occurred? So overruled.
I do not know that.
And in fact, during this third interview, Michelle did not say that she provided information to Mr. Dulos to add to his timeline, did she?
She added information to her timeline that he said.
Right. So my now question is the reverse. She didn't tell you that she volunteered information to Dulos that he should add to his, did she?
She said she recited information which he then put on the timeline.
Did she say she saw him putting it on the timeline? She never
She
said
said,
that.
obviously, he wrote what I said, so I don't know when he wrote it.
Oh, okay. That's the point. You don't know when he wrote it, right?
Correct, I don't know, but it ended up on the timeline.
And just to also remind the jury, the copy of Michelle's timeline was a photocopy that you had retrieved from 4 Jefferson Crossing,
That's
right?
correct, yes.
And the original you knew had been given to Andrew Bowman, her attorney, right?
No, no, she did a separate timeline for Attorney Bowman, or she completed the existing timeline.
Well, let's be clear. Let me remind you, during the second interview, did Mr. Bowman confirm that the original of the photocopy you had been given to him? He nodded his head. He had it right there on his folder on June 6th.
So to clarify, Counselor, he had a timeline. I don't know that that was in fact the same timeline that we had a photocopy of.
Right, but you don't know that it wasn't either, do you?
She was asking, we were trying to find out where in the house her timeline was, and she couldn't tell us.
Didn't
Because it
she
was a photocopy.
Didn't she specifically say she gave it to Andy and nodded to him in that June 6th interview? Does that refresh your recollection?
It wasn't clear, so she may have said that.
By the way, had you reviewed Pavel Gumieni's interview with Detectives Butin and Allegro prior to the August 13th interview with Michelle?
Yes,
You in fact mentioned that Pavel had, quote, told you a lot, unquote. Where's that effect? In this.
that was
particular-
Detective Clavi that said that. It was said in my presence.
All right, but you had watched the video or read the transcript? What
I
did
had
you-
read the report.
of what Gumieni said?
Yes,
And were you aware that during that interview with Gumieni, that the detective, specifically Detective Allegro, point blank asked Gumieni if Dulos had ever referred to his wife as a fucking bitch or words to that effect?
not aware of that.
And were you aware, though, that Pavel at that time said, no, he had never heard?
Who's going to object, Your Honor?
Well,
Relevance, you're saying.
At this point, counsel is asking the witness about another interview in which this witness did not participate. He's asking him, was he aware? Now, that phrase, were you aware, often is used to get an evidence that would be inadmissible. So essentially, we have hearsay on top of hearsay.
Except I'm not offering it for the proof of the statement that was made. To the contrary, Your Honor, it's that words were used that were suggested to Mr. Gumieni.
Well, it appears to this court that it is being offered for the truth of the matter, so that Michelle Troconis never used those words. So in this court, it is being offered for the truth of the matter asserted. It's hearsay sustained.
By the way, you never heard Mr. Gumieni say that Michelle ever uttered words like that, did you? Back when you were doing the investigation?
No, I did not.
Even in the third interview on August 13th, didn't Michelle tell you that she had assumed that he was home because his phone was there, that Fotis was home because the phone was there?
What she said, my recollection was, well, obviously he wasn't, well, probably wasn't home.
Probably wasn't home.
Probably wasn't
But she
home.
had said she assumed it because she saw his phone, right?
She said she had thought that he was home because Kent was there. Didn't understand that one.
Okay, well, didn't she also tell you, and didn't we see this in the interview, that Fotis had told her that he had a meeting with Kent Nguyen coming up on Friday?
No, she said that in the August 13th interview. She said it in an earlier interview.
And she never contradicted that, though, did she? She never took that back, did she?
No.
And you knew, in fact, Kent Nguyen was at the house that morning, right?
Yes.
And we saw his vehicle, a vehicle consistent with his SUV, pull through the archway into the back parking area of 4 Jefferson Crossing that morning, right?
That's correct. Yeah.
And we don't see the vehicle in any of the time action videos leaving, correct? At no particular.
Not that I know of, no.
And just for the record, you also arrested Mr. Mawini, correct?
He was arrested, not by me, but yes, he was arrested.
By the way, you also were aware that the next door neighbor at 2 Jefferson Crossing had video that captured all comings and goings on for any movement on the street, correct?
So that individual had one, and then he had a secondary camera that caught some of the movements. I'm not sure if it was activated, motion activated or not.
Did you
So I don't
or
know if it
one
was
of the?
all of it.
I'm sorry,
So I don't know if it was all of the movements.
Okay, so you or one of your members of your team did review whatever surveillance video came from 2 Jefferson Crossing, correct?
I did not, but it was reviewed, yes.
And none of those cameras showed when Mr. Mawini left or when a vehicle consistent with Mawini's SUV left that morning,
I
correct?
honestly can't speak to that. I don't know.
Okay. By the way, until Michelle volunteered on August 13th that she's the one who picked up the phone when she saw a number from Greece. You didn't know who had picked up the phone, correct?
She saw the name Andreas and she picked up the phone and we didn't know. We only knew the phone had been answered.
Right. And I believe that you had determined there was a 16-second call from Andreas Tutsiardis from Greece, right?
I believe that's correct, yes.
And she's the one who said, it was me, I picked it. And that she
Yes,
told you?
yes.
She also told you that Fotis often stored other women's names under men's names to disguise the fact that he was talking to other women. Didn't she tell you that?
She did.
And when you looked at his phone, you determined that some of the names that looked like men were in fact registered to women, right?
I didn't look into that aspect, but I can't speak to
Did
that.
anyone in the department look into that?
Perhaps, I don't know the outcome of that.
By the way, you never talked to Andreas Tutsiardis, correct?
We tried to, but he didn't want to cooperate.
Did he come into the United States from Greece like a month or two later?
He did?
And you did not speak to him at all? Or
No.
nobody from the department did?
No,
By the way, was his phone seized?
it was.
Did he ever admit he's the one who sent that short meme that we saw the other day?
Judge was going to object.
I'll withdraw it.
This wasn't going to cooperate.
Right,
Sustained.
I'll withdraw that. By the way, to your knowledge, did the Tutsiardis phone get seized?
Did it get seized?
Seized, yes, when he came to the United States.
Like I said before, yes.
Was ever returned to him?
Never asked for it back is what I heard.
There was a lot of questions asked in this real estate, in this August 13th session about the realtor coming on Saturday, correct?
Yes,
And I think
Rania.
Rania, and just for the record, we're talking about, that was going to be my question. You mentioned Rania, but her last name is Manusis, right? Or Manutis.
I believe so, yes.
And she is a registered real estate agent in the Farmington Valley,
I
correct?
believe so, yes.
And there were a couple of times when either you or Detective Clabby talked about how 80 Mountain Spring Road was an important location or aspect of your investigation. Remember saying that?
Yes, it was.
And just to be clear, the evidentiary services unit of the Western District Major Crime Squad went with the evidence van to 80 Mountain Spring Road, correct?
Yes,
They spent at least an entire day going through the entire house, right? Over that weekend?
they went through the interior of the house. That's correct.
And didn't they also go through around the exterior as well?
I'm not sure what they did as far as the exterior goes. I know that. I'm not sure what the van did as far as the exterior goes.
But you also know that subsequently there were also dog canine units on the property.
Yes,
And in fact, at one point, they went in with some kind of device to look for shallow graves and whatnot that might have been dug on the property, right?
correct.
Did the, you're aware that there was a coffee cup thrown away in one of the recycling buckets inside the house at 80 Mountain Spring Road, right?
Again, this is the were you aware questions. A fair question is whether or not either this witness or other police witnesses found a coffee cup at 80 Mountain Spring Road. But the question, were you aware that X happened? What's going to sustain that objection?
All right, I'll ask it a different way. When you asked Michelle Troconis about whether or not she saw evidence of coffee on May 24th, when she was at 80 Mountain Spring Road, were you already told that there was in fact, a used coffee cup in the blue recycling bucket at 80 Mountain Spring Road? Objection.
Well, again,
Goes to this witness's actions.
the question is, were you told that there was a coffee cup in the garbage at 80 Mountain Spring Road? Well, court sees this question as, and the court is anticipating the response to the objection, that it's not being offered for the truth, but the court thinks it is being offered for the truth, that there was a coffee cup in the garbage at 80 Mountain Spring Road. Sustained.
All right, well, let me ask you a different question. What evidence did you have a knowledge of that was found, evidence that was used in this investigation, did you find at 80 Mountain Spring Road that you were in possession of when you were questioning Mr. Troconis on August 13th, 2019?
Judge was going to object here. Second.
Well, the question is, what was found at 80 Mountain Spring Road? That's the question.
Yeah.
Overruled.
The evidence we were operating on was the to and from activity, to and from 80 Mountain Spring and the Toyota Tacoma specifically.
Yeah, my question is, at the location itself, not people driving to and from, what evidence was found at 80 Mountain Spring Road during the course of your investigation prior to your interrogation on August 13th?
We found any,
Nothing, right?
not in the interior. This was all happening in the driveway.
What did you find in the driveway?
I don't know that anything was found in the driveway, but we found
She told you that she had brought over cleaning supplies to 80 Mountain Spring Road, right? On August 13th?
yes.
Did anybody seize any, to your knowledge, any cleaning supplies? at 80 Mountain Spring Road?
Well, at 80 Mountain Spring Road.
Right.
We found some in the garbage in Albany Avenue, which may have been at 80 Mountain Spring Road at some point. I don't know.
Of course, I didn't ask you that question. sir,
Okay.
Right? Let's just talk about what was found at 80 Mountain Spring Road.
No cleaning supplies were found at 80 because
No garbage bags were found there, were they, at 80 Mountain Spring Road?
I'm not sure if any garbage bags were found at 80.
No Clorox or other cleaning spray was found at
No,
80 Mountain
that's
Spring Road,
correct.
right? You asked a number of questions as I watched this video the other day on Friday about whether or not she was cleaning windows. Do you remember that portion of the testimony when you were asked questions about it and we watched the video?
Yes, I remember that point in the interview.
At no time, I just want to be clear, at no time prior to August 13th, 2019, did Michelle Troconis say to you that she was washing windows at 80 Mountain Spring Road, right?
That came from Pavel, but yes, in none of the interviews did she say that.
She said you said you had proof of it and you were going to play a video. Remember?
I do remember saying that, yeah.
And then we listened to some audio rather, that was played for her, right?
Yes,
And that part said, whatever was played, said nothing about her washing windows, did
no, it was an entirely different topic.
it? This past Friday, you did say that was a mistake, correct?
Yes, I did.
On your part.
Yes.
Nevertheless, after you played this unrelated audio clip, didn't she say that maybe I did and I'm sorry if I said that?
About the windows?
Yeah.
Yes, you did.
So you convinced her that she had said that even though she hadn't, right?
Objection, Your Honor, mischaracterizes the testimony, mischaracterizes.
Cross-examination,
Overruled.
right?
I don't know that maybe is a statement of conviction.
Didn't she say that? Didn't you say, you definitely said you were cleaning windows. That's why we're asking you why you're not saying that now. And in response, I'm sorry if I said I was cleaning windows. Isn't that what a response to you was?
Well, I'm going to object, Judge, because that's way out of context. You should read the entire thing in this exercise.
Well, the question has already been asked whether or not the witness's statement to the defendant essentially convinced her that she said she was washing windows or not washing windows. In other words, the statement made by the witness convinced the defendant that she said something that she didn't say. That's the question.
Yes,
Rather than go through the transcript.
that's fine. I mean, isn't that correct? That you told her she was definitely washing windows and she said, I'm sorry if I said I was washing windows.
Judge, I'm going to object. That is not the sequence as I recall.
So there's redirect, overruled.
Question in one piece, if you would, Counselor, please.
Did she or did she not say to you after you played that clip, unrelated clip, I'm sorry if I said I was washing windows?
Between the time of me saying you were washing windows and that statement, yes, she did say that with a lot of interim information.
Now, you also swore under oath, did you not, in another statement, that Troconis repeatedly told investigators she had been, quote, cleaning windows, unquote, while at 80 Mountain Spring Road. Can you just swear to that in an affidavit?
You see that?
Sure, I have to mark it for ID. Counsel. And I want to indicate, you wrote another affidavit in January 2020, correct?
Yes,
And so that was after you had an opportunity to review the recordings and the videos of all three interrogations, correct?
after I had an opportunity, yes.
Yes.
I was going off of notes, wasn't watching the videos themselves.
But when you swear to something under oath, you have to be pretty sure because you're saying something as being true, correct?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Well, I'm going to object, Your Honor.
I haven't shown it to him yet, Your Honor. There's nothing to object to yet.
Well, respectfully, I think that the question, Your Honor, frankly, was related to the third interview, and that document is not related to the third interview. So I think it's improper impeachment at this point. But the counsel wants to show it to the witness, I have no objection.
What's the question again?
The question is, did you not swear under oath that Troconis told investigators that she had been, quote, cleaning windows while at 80 Mountain Spring Road? Did you swear to that in an affidavit? And you asked to see the document, and I'd like to show him what's marked as LL for identification. I'm going to call your attention to this bullet point.
Okay, I see that.
So did you, under oath swear that she had repeatedly said that she'd been cleaning windows at 80 Mountain Spring?
That appeared in my affidavit, yes.
That was an error, a mistake, correct?
Yes, absolutely.
You wouldn't consider it a lie, though, would you?
No.
Just on Friday, you were shown a couple of videos where you pointed to some smoke coming out of the chimney of the house, correct?
Yes, correct.
And you're aware that that was a chimney connected to a fireplace in the house, right?
Yes,
In the video, you referred to it as billowing smoke, correct?
Just object, Judge.
Well,
Mischaracterized the video. This witness did not say this.
well, the witness can speak for himself. Overruled.
I don't remember saying billowing. I remember saying presence of smoke
Was it Detective Cloudy? You said it was billowing smoke,
in the third interview.
third interview.
I believe it was.
And whatever it was, you pointed to what you had looked at prior to the August 13th interview, right? The other day, that's what you were referring to, right?
I was told about the presence of smoke.
Oh, you didn't see
I hadn't seen it.
You had only seen it, what, last week? Was the first time?
It wasn't last week, but it was not prior to the 13th of August.
Okay, all right. And she told you that she had firewood in the fireplace. Didn't she tell you that
In the interview,
in the interview? Yeah.
she did say that.
And she told you about other times that she had fires going in the fireplace, right? In the same time period, right?
She had multiple fires that day that we were referring to.
No, didn't she tell you she had one for her mother, that she had another one the previous day? Didn't she tell you that?
And she said she had them every day, and then she said not every day, but she didn't allude to a fire for her with her mother.
And she even asked and told you that Pavel had helped her bring firewood up to the porch, didn't she? In this interview?
That he had carried wood,
Carried firewood up to the house, right?
carried firewood. I don't know where, but he helped her carry firewood.
Okay, and did you confirm that with Mr. Gumieni?
I did not.
Did anybody?
I don't know.
Now, there was some suggestion about the fact that this was in May that this fire, the videos we watched last week showed tremendous amount of wind blowing. Isn't that true in many of these videos?
Judge, I'm just going to object. My question was actually, there was an objection. My question was sustained. So now counsel's trying to take advantage of the question that I wasn't allowed to complete.
The previous question had to do with the fact that this was in May, that there was a fire. The fact that she was asked about a different issue is not what I'm getting into.
Well, the last question that the court heard was, wasn't there essentially a lot of wind that day?
Right.
That's the last question. the
Yes.
court heard.
Well, the build up to that though was there was a suggestion on Friday that this was in May, and I'm simply pointing out that my question, which I tried to ask on Friday, was an objection and it was sustained.
Well, that question had to do with the attire of an individual
That's correct.
who was wearing shorts.
Yeah,
And so now this question has to do with whether, it has nothing to do with the temperature, it's whether it was windy.
Right.
So overruled.
So I can't quantify the amount of wind. I know that I heard some wind noise, but I can't say it was heavy wind.
When you were standing up there looking at the vehicles and illustrating vehicles going back and forth, you didn't notice that the trees were blowing and some looked like maybe, I'm not going to estimate, but in 10, 20, 30 mile an hour winds.
I don't know how much wind there was. I just know there was wind.
Okay. By the way, firewood burns white smoke, doesn't it, in your experience?
I have no idea.
Things like cloth burns, doesn't it?
Well, the court's going to sustain the objection because this all requires essentially conjecture.
Correct. That'll cross out 6 more of my questions. Let's talk about this issue with the coffee. We just watched this video where you asked Michelle about whether or not the paper towel that Dulos handed her to throw away smelled like coffee.
I
You
remember
recall
that.
that portion of the.
I certainly do, yes.
Now, I can't remember if it was you or Detective Clabby suggesting that this, coffee stinks and, it has a strong smell. Do you remember those questions in this video, in this August 13th
I do.
interrogation? Right. Didn't she tell you that she didn't smell it at all and actually gestured? She never pulled it up towards your face?
So when Detective Clabby asked his question, he gestured. In response to his gesture, she said, I didn't smell it. But if you watch at 3:07, she says, you're right, it did not smell of coffee.
You're telling me that she responded to what Detective Clabby said, and you know that how?
She did this, she made the same motion.
And she says, I didn't smell it. And she went like this, like she didn't take odor and whiff the rag. Isn't that what she
She
said?
didn't go through the act of smelling, but she later on said that it still didn't smell of coffee. She played 3:07. You'll see that.
So you know the exact minute that
I do.
this was said?
I do.
Because you anticipate I was going to ask you that question?
Yes.
Oh, all right. I want to talk to you a little bit about the Tacoma key. You were asked at least twice, as I understand it, whether Michelle Troconis mentioned the Tacoma key prior to the August 13th, 2019 interview. You remember being asked those questions by Mr. McGinnis and you said, no, she didn't bring it up?
She didn't mention the key. Yes. I
You didn't ask her before August 13th about a key, did you?
No,
You did know that Mr. Gumieni had said, well, maybe she just didn't want to leave a key in an unmanned vehicle when no one was home, or words to that effect. No.
she said that.
Didn't Mr. Gumieni say that in his interview prior to August 13th?
Jack Judge calls for hearsay.
It's not being offered for the truth. It's the fact it was
Well,
said.
Well, it is being offered for the truth because it's being offered to show that the account that Michelle Troconis did not know or had the key inside of the vehicle was contradicted in some way at some other point. So it is being offered for the truth of the matter stated. So to say.
In any event, I just want to be clear. You never asked her anything about a Tacoma key prior to August 13th, 2019, correct?
Correct.
Or the fact that she brought it back like 5 minutes later, 7 minutes later.
No, we didn't talk about that.
I can't hear you.
No, we did not talk about that.
With regard to the Russell Speeder car wash, in all of the surveillance video from that plaza, at no point do you see Michelle Troconis anywhere near the Russell Speeder car wash, correct?
I didn't review the video, so I don't know if that's accurate.
Detective Clabby went in, didn't he?
I was not even here for that, so I believe he did go in, but I was not in state for that.
You mean on August 1st, you weren't in state on
No, I was-
2019?
No, I was on vacation.
Oh, you were on vacation. You knew, you were the chief investigator though for this investigation, right?
Yes.
And so you would review what other officers did in this investigation, right?
In general, yes, but I don't know the answer to that question.
Particularly if you were going to apply for an arrest warrant.
Yes,
So you also know that you had specific knowledge that Detective Clabby had spoken to the personnel at Russell Speeder, right?
yes,
And he also wrote, and you knew that the double entry of a phone number was a clerical error on the part of the employee, correct?
double entry?
Yeah, the fact that Miss Michelle's phone number was written next to a Toyota Sienna at 8:44 a.m. that had a full detail for $250.
That's the way, that's the way the Fotis Dulos entered the information.
Now, didn't Detective Clabby write a report that said that was an error on the part of the person that worked at Russell Speeder on August 1st, 2019?
There's an objection. Well, here's how the question is developing. First, the witnesses said the witness was on vacation. Then the question was, well, you review the reports of those who you supervised, and the answer was the affirmative. And then the question was, didn't Detective Clabby indicate that there was an erroneous entry on the log with Michelle Troconis' phone number next to a Toyota Sienna, which had been detailed for $250? So the question, didn't you become aware that Detective Clabby noted an error in the log detailing what happened with a Toyota Sienna next to Michelle Troconis' phone number, price $250? Well, the question is, did he read a report by Detective Clabby that stated that? That's the question.
Well, was he told it, not whether he read the report? It's double hearsay. It's not being offered for the truth. It's the fact that it was the effect on this listener.
Well, this court sees that question as a simple question. Not whether he was told, because the court will sustain a hearsay objection. If this witness has testified as a result of counsel's question that he reads the reports of all of those he supervised, did you read a report in which Detective Clabby said there was an erroneous entry at Russell Speeder's car wash? That's the question. If that's the question, the objection's overruled.
Yes, question.
Did you review a report that indicated that the entry regarding a Toyota Sienna at 8:44 a.m. was an error recorded at Russell Speeder?
I saw no report that stated that.
Didn't you swear under oath as late as January of 2020 that it was Fotis Dulos who dictated the 8:44 a.m. entry of a Toyota Sienna?
Judges object to this way improper impeachment of hearsay.
Well, the question is, didn't you, as this witness,
Right.
indicate that that note, really the log, said whatever it said? And so the question is, has this witness ever said that the note contains certain information? That's how the court hears the question.
Again, she asked the question for me.
Did you write an affidavit stating that it was Fotis Dulos who gave the information that he had a Toyota Sienna at 8:44 a.m. as a log entry to Russell Speeder car wash?
I wrote that because that was my understanding at the time.
But you knew at that point when you wrote that Detective Clabby had determined it was an error by the Russell Speeder employee, correct?
Incorrect. I did not know that.
You did not know that. You knew that now though, right?
I have yet to see the report.
Well, the court is trying to understand what the ID marking means. This witness has said that he didn't recognize that Toyota Sienna entry was erroneous at the time, but now he does. And he included that in an affidavit. So that's been admitted.
Well, he didn't admit, I didn't hear him admit that he now knows it was erroneous. If he is, then I don't need to do this. Are you admitting that that information was erroneous now?
I would need to see the report to determine that,
All
sir.
right, well, that's where we're at. Could I have a?
In this court view, it's a very simple, essentially demonstration. If Sienna is in the report, then the witness can indicate that's an error.
Just have it before I show you this. When did you get back from vacation? Because I want to get the time
I
frame.
don't remember.
It was
Counsel.
before, obviously, August 13th, 2019, right?
Obviously, yes.
And Detective Clabby was in that room with you on August 13th, right?
He was.
And he informed you as to what had occurred in this development of the investigation while you were on vacation, right?
Yes.
All right, so I'm going to show you what has been marked for ID as MM. And so you don't have to read the entire report. I'm just going to have you start with right here. Yeah. You had a chance to do that, right?
I did, yes.
Detective Clabby informed you that the entry regarding the Toyota Sienna was entered in error. Didn't he tell you that?
No, he did not.
He never told you
I
that.
did not know that. No, I wouldn't have put it in affidavit.
Okay, so that was an error that you didn't know at the time. So it was it was a mistake that you didn't know.
Correct.
Okay.
3:20, we're going to take our afternoon recess. Ladies and gentlemen, please do not discuss the case.
Is that when I'm pointing out things that are
All rise. This ministry does not come back second.
Good afternoon, please be seated. Thank you.
Judge, before the jury comes out, I just wanted to play something on the record. The states, except when they're playing the video, the states direct of this witness from both Friday, from all of Friday, including I think Thursday when he started, whenever he started, all had to do with what other police told him. When I objected on hearsay grounds, and the state said, well, it goes to the effect on his investigation, the court overruled my objections. What's happening, though, I just want to be for the record, is that when I'm pointing out things that are essentially exculpatory that they learned during the investigation that they didn't follow up on, it's suddenly hearsay and it's being sustained repeatedly. So I'm noting that the same grounds that was allowed that allowed this witness to testify as to what others told him was permitted, and now it's being precluded on cross-examination. I think it's like I think the case, the one to cite would be Wardius versus Oregon 412 US 470, which basically says that when rules are applied differently to the state versus the defense, that it becomes a due process violation. So what's happening is anything that was consistent with their narrative, hearsay was allowed in. And I'm pointing out all these things that this witness knew or learned during the course of the investigation prior to August 13th, and it's being excluded on hearsay grounds when it's not being offered for the truth. It's being offered to show that he knew these things at the time of the investigation. So I just want to put that on the record. You know, I'm almost done, but I wanted to at least state on the record my concern.
Well, here's the difference. Court, first of all, it's not going to revisit. Here's the difference. In the interviews, it is not always clear the reasons the interviewers are asking the questions. So what is clear is that they're asking questions in order to get a response from the defendant. They're not asking questions, and those questions coming in basically based on hearsay information to prove the matter asserted. They're asking questions to get a response. Some of the questions are genuine, some are disingenuous. But the purpose is to get a response from the defendant, whether the information that they conveyed was basically hearsay information or not. In counsel's question, for example, counsel asked the question, well, did you find out to the particular witness that there was actually a coffee cup in the garbage at 80 Mountain Spring? That's not to get a response from the witness. That's to prove that there was a coffee cup in the garbage at 80 Mountain Spring. The questions that are based on hearsay asked during the interview elicited responses whether those questions were genuine or not. That means whether they were truthful or not. In this court's view, the questions asked by counsel essentially are efforts to get in hearsay statements for the truth of the matter asserted in those statements. That's the difference.
Judge, can I also just be heard on the issue very briefly? Judge, at sidebar, I had raised an objection to one of Attorney Schoenhorn's questions earlier, because essentially Attorney Schoenhorn asked a question for which there was no factual basis to ask. Specifically, he asked Detective Kimball, isn't it true that, and words to this effect, Judge, because I don't remember the exact question, that by August 13th, you would have known that my client's phone records showed a incoming call from Enterprise Rental. And I pointed out at sidebar on May 28th, I pointed out at sidebar that those particular records, which were subsequently suppressed, only went until May 27th. So there was no factual basis for that particular question to assume that the detective would have known that on August 13th. When I raised this at sidebar, the defense's response was you didn't basically object fast enough. And I just want to know, and the state, incidentally, the other day had the fortitude to say that we had made an error when we asked the question and we moved to strike. And I want to know if the defense is similarly going to say that they made an error in that question and the state will join in their motion to strike, because that was not an appropriate question. There was no factual basis for it.
I'll just say, I don't even know for a fact that that those records only went through May 27th would be what, 1 day or 2 days prior, no, 1 day prior. This is may know that, but I'm not willing to say that without knowing that that's the date that we're talking about. I thought the records were through May 31st. So I don't have those records here to know that in fact they didn't include the next day.
We just litigated this the other day, and I pointed out to the court that this warrant application, which the court indicated it was not going to grant the defense motion to suppress, was different in that the previous application only went until May 27th, and this application went the week before and the week after. So when counsel says he didn't know, I'm surprised by that comment, given that we just litigated it the other day. And so I'm once again asking, are they going to have the fortitude to move to strike that question and answer in front of the jury?
Well, this is not going to be essentially a test of any counsel's fortitude, moral or otherwise. This court responds to objections as they are made. So it would not be possible for this court to know at any particular time, having this being almost the 5th complete week of testimony, whether something constituted facts not in evidence. So again, this court will rule on objections in a timely fashion when they're made in a timely fashion. Can you bring the jury over? Counsel stipulate, please.
Yes, Judge, yes. Officer Kimball, I just want to maybe correct. I referred earlier when I was asking about the call to Enterprise to AT&T records, but you in fact had other information that you confirmed that she did in fact have to pick up her car that morning from an Enterprise rental car, even if it wasn't from her phone records, correct?
I don't know what other, I don't know.
You actually, somebody went to Enterprise rental car to confirm that when she rented that vehicle, right? The Yukon.
I believe so, but I don't have, off the top of my head, I don't have.
And you had
recollection of that.
other phone records of my clients from the phone that you knew that she'd received those calls that morning, that call at 9:15 from Enterprise, right?
I don't know that.
Let me just, I'm going to finish up on, I just have a few more questions about Russell Speeder. Michelle told you that she dropped off, that she picked up Fotis Dulos at the Russell Speeder after he went in, right? In this interview, correct?
Yes,
That she told you she never went in, right?
yes,
She told you she didn't even know he had paid with cash.
yes,
And she told you that when she picked him up, they went right down to see Attorney Bowman down in Westport, right?
yes.
One of the other things towards the end of the interview, you showed Michelle a picture that we see in the video of another woman with Fotis Dulos. That's one of you refers to as Michelle 2.0, I wrote down,
It
right?
was not me that did that, it was Detective Flavy.
Okay, but you were the one who showed her the picture, right?
Correct.
And that was a picture of a woman, just so we're clear, named Anna Curry, right?
That's correct.
And this is the woman that moved into Fotis's house a short time after Michelle moved out, correct?
That's my understanding. Yes.
And the picture you showed her, which hasn't been offered, but it showed Miss Curry together with Mr. Dulos at a store, right?
Yes.
And you said it, one of you said that the woman looked a lot like Michelle, right?
Yes.
You thought, or one of you thought it might in fact be Michelle? This way you asked the question. of-
Not at the time that we showed it to her, no.
All right, so you showed her that picture knowing it wasn't her, right?
Yes.
You showed it to her and told her it was Fotis's, I guess, new girlfriend, right?
I don't know that we said that.
Well, a woman he was now with that looked like Michelle,
There was a similar appearance, yes. Absolutely.
tall, maybe similar build, similar hair color, things like that.
Yes, correct.
And was the purpose of showing her that to what, make her jealous?
Purpose was to find out if she knew who that was, if she was familiar with that person solely.
But didn't you know by then that it was Anna Curry? You had
She
checked
wanted to know
her
if she knew who it was.
out. Oh, okay. And she didn't know who Anna Curry was.
That is correct.
And you know, Anna Curry is the person who posted Fotis Dulos' bonds, right?
Yes. I
You knew that
understand.
she had become his, at least she was his move-in girlfriend, right?
I-
Object to your saying.
You,
Sustained.
you believed she was his new girlfriend, right?
Our understanding is that she was living at Fort Jefferson with him.
And she was living with Fotis Dulos at the time of his death, right?
Objection, you're saying outside the scope.
Well, it's outside of the scope. Sustained.
Who asked the question whether or not that it might be by design that she looks like you? Who asked that question?
Well, first of all, it's not a question.
Well,
I don't know who said that. I'm not sure who said that, but it's not a question.
the statement that was made to her, I'm saying that suggesting that it might be by design that she looks like you don't know who that is. What was the reason for that statement being made at that time to Michelle?
I don't remember who said it, so I can't speak to that.
Did you suggest, or was it Mr. Detective Flavy who said that maybe he's trying to set you up?
I remember that being said again. I don't remember who said it. I don't
In
remember.
any event, you knew that wasn't Michelle in that picture at the store, right?
Correct.
And then I'm just going to ask you a couple more questions. Now, when Michelle indicated to you that on the morning of May 24th, she had gone to the Stop and Shop, correct?
Correct.
And she reiterated that during this interview, correct?
Correct.
You actually had a copy of the receipt from the Stop and Shop showing, in fact, what she had bought and when she had bought it, right?
I didn't have one in that interview.
But you had had it, pictures were taken of it, that you had seen what the evidentiary services people took pictures of, right?
I don't remember whether pictures were taken of it.
All right, I'm going to mark this by D. And just to set this up, you were aware that between the second interview of Michelle Troconis and the third in August, the evidentiary services unit had also been to Fort Jefferson Crossing, right?
They had gone between the first and the second interview.
No, they went on the 3rd of June, didn't they, to Fort Jefferson Crossing? They had been at 80 Mountain Spring on the 2nd, right? Just trying to refresh my
So-
recollection.
The 3rd of June is between the first and second interview.
You're right and I'm wrong. Yes, they'd gone between those two interviews, correct?
That's
And at
between
some-
interviews 2 and 3,
Yes.
or 1 and 2. Excuse me.
Right, you know where they took pictures of a lot of documents, right?
Yes.
And we already saw today the timeline, that the photocopies of the timelines, correct?
Yes.
I don't object to this offer.
I printed it off. My exhibits. So exhibit NN is full. I'm just going to show you. There are a couple of receipts. You were aware that the evidentiary services unit had taken pictures of documents they found in the house, right?
In general, I'm aware of that, yes.
And you'll see that this side, I'll show you, is the Stop and Shop. There's a photocopy of the picture they took. So I'll just be clear, this is not the original document. It's just a photo of a receipt, right?
That's the way it appears, yes.
Yeah, and you'll see that it lists the address as
Bushy.
Bushy Hill Road in Simsbury. You see that?
Yes,
And it shows that the time of the purchase was May 24th at 10:01 a.m., correct?
I see that, yes.
And it shows she bought stuff at the cheese shop, the deli, the produce, and then it says seafood. It says SB, raw, 2 pounds, maybe that's sea bass, I don't know, but you see that there,
I
right?
see that, yes.
And that she used her American Express card to pay for that, right?
Yes.
And on the same photograph, they also took a picture of the Starbucks receipt, right?
Apparently.
And that was the May 24th at 7:59 p.m. It shows exactly what was purchased at the Starbucks, right?
Yes.
And specifically also included that she paid with a MasterCard, right?
Yes.
And there was also officers viewed video of the purchase of Michelle entering the Stop and Shop, correct?
Yes.
Can I have this mark, please? I'm showing you what's been marked as Exhibit 00. Is this a screenshot from the video of Michelle Troconis entering the Stop and Shop to do the purchase of the parsley, the cheese, and the sea bass that we just saw the receipt.
It appears to be, yes.
And I'll just note the time up at the top, that would be UTC time, 1:30,
Okay,
right? So if
I don't know
you
that for a
subtract 4 hours, that would be 9:30 a.m.
31.
And that would be consistent with her actually paying for her items at 10 a.m., correct?
It would be, yes.
I'd offer it. I have no objection.
What is it, NN?
This is,
Oh, admitted as full.
and I'll just show it to the jury. And again, it shows Mr. Troconis talking on the telephone, or appears to be having her phone up at her ear as she enters the store, correct?
That's what it appears to be, yes.
Can I just have a moment, Your Honor?
Yes.
I just have a couple of just follow-up questions. You had previously testified that you had become the lead investigator sometime between the first and the second interviews on, in 2019, is that correct?
I don't remember testifying that. I'm not sure what date I was made the lead investigator.
Right. In any event, you were the lead investigator as of August 13th, 2019.
Yes, that's true.
And so that any decisions that were made regarding moving forward on investigation or making arrests was made by you in consultation with others, correct?
It was made by my sergeant in consultation with me.
And with the state's attorney's office,
And with the
right?
state's attorney.
Okay, so you couldn't do any of this just on your own, right?
Absolutely.
So this was a collaborative effort on your part with your sergeant and the state's attorney,
Correct.
Mr. Colangelo at the time, right?
Correct.
I have no further questions. Thank you.
Detective Kimball, on cross-examination, you were asked about K-9 units searching various areas. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
The K-9 unit involves what type of dog?
Generally a German Shepherd tracking dog.
And they were apparently looking for Jennifer Dulos. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
As of today's date, February 20th, 2024, has Jennifer Dulos ever been located?
Objection outside the scope of cross.
It's outside the scope. Sustained.
During those K-9 unit searches that you were asked about on cross-examination, was Jennifer Dulos ever located?
She was not, no.
You were asked on cross-examination about the fact that it was actually the defendant who brought to your attention in the third interview that she had answered Mr. Dulos' phone. Do you recall those questions?
Yes.
What did the defendant say about Mr. Dulos' phone on June 6, 2019?
I asked her, she knew.
Objection asked and answered.
Well, the question, the preliminary question was, in the interview on August 13th, it was the defendant who stated that she responded to the call of Mr. Dulos' phone, or on Mr. Dulos' phone. Next question is, what did she say on the 6th of June? Well, there's been a significant amount of testimony in this case. If it has been asked and answered, it may be difficult to recall that it has been asked and answered, to overrule it.
What did the defendant say about Mr. Dulos' phone on the 6th of June when you interviewed her?
During that second interview, I asked her if she knew where Fotis' phone was. And her response was, with Fotis, I suppose. I asked her if it would be unusual if he left his phone behind, and she said it would be.
So she didn't say anything on June 2nd or June 6th about answering the phone, correct?
Not at all, no.
You were asked on cross-examination and shown video of a vehicle arriving at Fort Jefferson Crossing at 7:21 a.m. on May 24, 2019, correct?
Correct,
And you were asked on cross-examination who that vehicle belonged to, correct?
correct.
Who did that vehicle belong to?
Winnie.
You were also asked on cross-examination whether or not there was any video of Mr. Mooney's vehicle leaving Fort Jefferson Crossing, correct?
That's correct.
I'm just going to play, Judge, if I could. It's from State's Exhibit 90. So this is State's Exhibit 90. There's a video entitled Swanson Video 4. I'm just going to play this video. Detective Kimball, I'm just going to direct your attention to the driveway of Fort Jefferson Crossing.
Okay.
Does that appear to be Kent Mooney's vehicle leaving?
It does, yes.
Did you note the time for the jury?
8:44 a.m. on the 24th of May.
You were also asked on cross-examination whether or not you had arrested Kent Winnie in connection with this incident. Do you
Yes,
recall that question?
I do.
What did you arrest Kent Winnie for?
Kent Mooney was arrested for conspiracy to commit murder in connection with the murder of Jennifer Dulos.
And are those charges still pending?
They are still pending, yes.
You were asked on cross-examination whether or not someone named Andres was ever spoken with. Do you recall that question?
Yes, sir.
And what's Andres' last name?
Best of my ability, it's Tutsi artist.
And did he wish to cooperate with the investigation?
Objection, hearsay.
Well, the testimony has already been adduced that the gentleman declined to cooperate. So overruled.
Did he cooperate?
He did not cooperate, no.
You were asked on cross-examination about what, if any, evidence was located at 80 Mountain Spring Road. Do you recall those questions?
Yes,
And I believe you were specifically asked whether or not there were any cleaning supplies or garbage bags located at 80 Mountain Spring Road. Is that correct?
yes, that's correct.
Were there garbage bags located in the trash on Albany Avenue in Hartford?
Yes, there were.
And they were black, correct?
They were black, yes.
Was there a sponge located on Albany Avenue in Hartford?
Yes, there was.
Was there the handle of a broom or a mop located on Albany Avenue in Hartford?
Yes, there was.
And who indicated to you that they had brought cleaning supplies to 80 Mountain Spring Road on May 24th?
Michelle Troconis did.
Was there also a towel found on Albany Avenue in Hartford?
Yes,
You were asked on cross-examination whether or not the defendant had ever been asked about the Tacoma key or the fact that she had brought it back to 80 Mountain Spring Road in either of her first two police interviews. Do you recall that question?
yes,
On June 2nd, 2019, when you interviewed the defendant, were you aware that the Tacoma had been at 80 Mountain Spring Road?
we were not, no.
And did the defendant share that detail with you?
She did not.
So how could you possibly ask her that question?
Exactly.
Objection, argumented.
Well, answer to that question is self-serving. the same.
Did she share with you that the Tacoma was at 80 Mountain Spring Road during the June 6th interview?
No,
Incidentally, you were asked whether or not on August 13th, 2019, if you were aware of surveillance footage showing the Toyota Tacoma leaving at approximately 5:30 or so in the morning. Do you recall those questions?
I do remember.
When was that surveillance footage located by state police personnel?
Towards the end, middle or end of November of 2019.
So after this interview, correct?
Correct, after the August 13 interview.
You were asked some questions on cross-examination about affidavits that you submitted in support of warrants in this case. Do you recall those questions?
Yes,
Detective, could you maybe characterize the nature of this case in terms of the amount of information that you were receiving as the lead detective?
Objection, Dave.
Well, the question, can you discuss the amount of information you received, essentially in preparation of affidavits? There can be a very short answer, such as tons. That's what the court expects. So it's the court doesn't want to preempt the examination, but that's what's coming. So the court's going to allow that question. The objection is overruled.
Maybe I'll just rephrase. I'll try to short circuit this, use the judge's word. Was it tons of information?
tons. It was a huge investigation.
You were asked on cross-examination about the log entry at the car wash. Do you recall those questions?
Yes, I recall.
I believe you were given an opportunity to review Detective Clabby's report. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And you were then asked whether or not the first entry on the log was incorrect. Is that correct?
That's correct.
But there was a second entry as well, correct?
There was, yes.
And that was mentioned in Detective Clabby's report?
Yes, it was.
And was that correct?
That entry was correct.
I just have the log. Can you recall what it was?
Somebody,
So, Detective, you had an opportunity to review Detective Clabby's report, and you were asked about a wrong entry and a correct entry, correct?
Yes, correct.
All right, I'm just gonna ask if you could just step down and based on what you read in the report, can you indicate to the jury what the correct entry was?
Correct entry appears to be on this line. This is Michelle Troconis' phone number. The vehicle description is blank. The time is 9:14. Times 2 is detailing times 2. And this is the price which needs to be paid. In other words, it's not paid at the time of concession.
I want to just direct your attention to earlier on in the interview. I don't have the exact timestamp. And you were asked some questions on cross-examination about the smoke from the chimney. Do you recall those questions?
Yes.
Now, you spoke with the defendant about her movements back and forth between 80 Mountain and Fort Jefferson Crossing during the third interview, correct?
Correct.
And at one point, you indicated to her that you were trying to figure out basically what she was doing to try to account for her time, correct?
That's correct. Yes.
And at that point in the interview, did the defendant ever say to you that she had lit a fire at that point?
No.
She mentioned maybe being on her computer, I think, correct?
Yes.
If I can just have a move, Judge?
Yes.
Nothing further, Judge.
So I just want to be clear. You just said that you didn't get any of the 77 Mountain Spring Road surveillance before the August 13th interview. Is that correct?
I'm not saying that, no. I don't remember when we got that
Was it
surveillance.
when I mean the video from across from
Right,
80 Mountain Spring?
77 Mount Spring Road looking at 80. I
Yeah.
don't remember when we obtained that video.
So it may have been before the August 13th interview.
It may have been.
In any event, those are the videos you narrated last week, right?
That's correct. Yes.
You can't tell who's driving any of those vehicles from watching the video, correct?
No, we just know because if your defendant, your client telling us who's driving them.
But other than that, you can't tell just by watching, right?
No.
You can't tell what's inside any of those cars either from the video, can,
No, you cannot.
or who's bringing what at what point, right?
No, we have to rely on her description.
So maybe one additional question. So as I understand it, the only way you had any knowledge as to who were in those vehicles going back and forth was from what Michelle told you, right?
We saw individuals walking at the along the ribbon line. So yes, it's essentially yes, the answer to your question.
All right, thank you. No further questions.
I have nothing on that, Judge.
Dr. Kimball, you may step down.
Thank you.
Judge, that concludes our presentation for today.
Are there witnesses expected by the state tomorrow?
We have one witness and one judge.
And approximately how long do you think it will take on direct for that witness?
10 to 15 minutes.
Will the defense be ready to call any witnesses if the defense intends to call witnesses tomorrow?
Yes, there are obviously some matters at the close of the state's case have to be taken up outside the presence of the jury, but yes.
Thank you. So ladies and gentlemen, we will reconvene tomorrow at 10 o'clock. Thank you for your attention. Please do not discuss the case nor follow media about the case. Have a good evening. The testimony of Attorney Rose. That motion was signed by Attorney Patrick Jennings of the Met Law Group. Court is going to have to take up that motion to quash tomorrow. So we are going to begin tomorrow before the jury comes in at 9:30.
Your Honor, I spoke to Attorney Ment yesterday after discussing with him. I just got notice about the motion. I didn't receive it yet. He said he faxed it to my office, but of course I'm here. After speaking with Attorney Ment, we do not, I think a lot of it, I don't want to speak without actually looking at the motion, but since he verbally told me what it's about, I don't think it's going to require any kind of a hearing. I don't anticipate, in light of Your Honor's previous rulings, I'm not going to get into the custody hearings that took place in May of 2019 in the divorce court, because the court has already made clear that that's not admissible. So I already told that to Attorney Ment. I don't anticipate getting into any privileged communications between Mr. Dulos and his lawyer. In evidence already, there are certain communications, some of which involve Mr. Rose, and I'm just going to have him identify them, and when they were sent, I can ask him any advice that was given to him in a legal sense. So I think Attorney Rose will be on the stand for maybe 20, 25 minutes just to confirm when things happened and in what order they happened, and that's basically it.
Well, in this court view, that wouldn't take 25 minutes. So what actually do you intend to elicit from Attorney Rose?
Until I speak with I was given permission to speak directly with Attorney Rose, and until I do that, I can't represent exactly, but there were certain text messages back and forth. The one that comes to mind that I know I would be getting into is about his haircut.
Well, the court will consider, after you talk to Attorney Rose, arguments tomorrow, but it would appear to this court that it would be a pretty thin direct examination. If the only questions concern when things happen, in other words, when there were filings, when did Fotis Dulos come to your office, that shouldn't take much time at all. But what the court will indicate is that any testimony elicited concerning what Fotis Dulos' reaction was to anything is not going to be permitted. Because even if it was not verbal, any non-verbal assertion is still communication.
Well, I want to at least be heard with regard to that, Your Honor. It's not privileged communication, even if it's a communication. A laugh is not a privileged communication, for example. But Your Honor is basically saying that I can't even indicate whether someone appeared happy after there was a particular document filed. So I just don't agree, but that doesn't necessarily, I haven't gotten into that. So we're talking about the court precluding something before I even know to what extent that it's going to be elicited at this point. Your Honor already heard, if you recall, from Attorney Rose, and he was very careful during the suppression hearing what he could and couldn't say. I don't know if Your Honor's ruling now is broader than what Attorney Rose testified to at the suppression hearing.
Judge, if I could. Maybe. So just Attorney Schoenhorn's not prepared to represent what he intends to elicit. I don't think the court is precluding anything at this point. I think the court is just simply sharing its concern about the potential to dive into attorney-client privilege. So I don't think there's been any proffer or ruling at this point that we need to really debate. At least that's the state's view. I did just want to be heard on one additional matter, Judge. Kent Maloney, of course, is a co-conspirator in this matter. He's been arrested. The charges remain pending. He undoubtedly has a Fifth Amendment privilege and therefore is available to both parties. And given that we're going to be resting tomorrow, I just want to indicate that for the record, because obviously there shouldn't be any sort of missing witness arguments in closing argument under second Dino. I think is the name of the case in light of that fact that he's unavailable.
Of course, unavailable does not mean he's missing. Unavailable means he's going to invoke his privilege. The court just wants to also go over how it intends to proceed for the schedule. So tomorrow morning at 9:30, we'll take up the motion to quash, or in the alternative, issue a protective order. Then the court expects the short state's witness, cross-examination. And what the court understands is that that is the prosecution's last witness for arresting. Is that correct?
That's correct, Your Honor.
Then the court would expect the defense, if it intends to call any witnesses, to call witnesses. After the defense rests, the court understood previously that the defense is probably going to take 3 days. That's what the court understood. Is that accurate, Ms. Schoenhorn?
Fairly accurate. I'll also note the court's leaving out. I'll file it now, even though it's premature. I'm going to file a motion for judgment of acquittal, just a pro forma motion. I thought the state was resting today, so I'm filing it because it's got today's date on it, but obviously I won't argue it until after the state rests. But that will take maybe 45 minutes, 30 to 45 minutes, have case law and whatnot to cite to Your Honor, and there's a lot of charges, so I at least want to, it's not just a pro forma argument, I would believe, in this case.
Thank you. So after the state rests, of course, motion for judgment of acquittal has to be heard. Then the defense puts on its witnesses. I don't know how many witnesses the defense will get to tomorrow, but let's jump ahead to after the defense rests. The court is going to have to collapse certain things because what has happened in this case is uncommon. After the defense rests, we're going to take a break in order to allow both counsel to prepare their presentation for the contempt hearing. Now, the court does not know if all of that can be done the same day, but that's going to be the order right now. The court did not want to proceed with a contempt hearing interrupting the defense case. Only after the defense rests. The court will indicate today that the contempt hearing, if a contempt finding is made, is not going to impose a sanction at that time. Because that is a sanction that would be imposed, if there was one to be imposed, before closing arguments, and the court does not want to essentially disrupt the defendant's Sixth Amendment right to a defense. And in this court's view, having practiced criminal defense for a long time, we find it disruptive if the court proceeded with a contempt hearing, made a finding, and then asked counsel to prepare closing argument. Too disruptive. That's how the court intends to proceed. And then, of course, we'd have to proceed with a charge conference. So there are many, as the cliche goes, moving parts here. The court wants to try to make sure that the jury is not surprised and informed that, well, we're going to be here a lot longer than March 1st. So that's the reason the court has to proceed this way. If there is a finding of contempt, sanctions will be imposed when a verdict is returned, whether it's guilty or not guilty, on all the counts. Tomorrow, 9:30, take up the motion to quash.
Is the attorney that filed the motion going to be here? I mean,
The court does not know.
have they been notified? Because I
Court
would
does
say
not.
that
The court does not know. This was just handed to the court right before the court came into the session.
there's one other thing I did want to at least bring to your honor's attention. Attorney Felsen and I have decided that in light of the nature of that allegation, that it would be inappropriate for either of us to represent Mr. Troconis, and then she has been reaching out to other counsel who will be, depending on when that hearing is scheduled, would be coming in. It's just, whatever happened during my cross-examination of one of the state's witnesses, and I just don't think it would be appropriate for us to represent her to the extent that puts us in a position that's certainly, I'm not going to say it's adverse to our client, but certainly puts us in a position where we may have information that is outside of what would normally be what you represent the client for. And the fact that there were prior counsel and all these other things that have to be investigated. So.
You wish to be heard, Attorney Matt?
On an unrelated matter, Your Honor, respect to the fact that I just make a request of the defense and bring it to the court's attention that throughout the course of the trial, the state the night before has given the defense attorneys list the names of individuals who will be testing the next day. The state is asking for that same courtesy. So counsel could indicate which witnesses will be testifying tomorrow. I know there are experts coming from out of state, so the state would like to know which ones to prepare for tomorrow.
Neither for tomorrow.
If I may know who is testifying
Sure.
tomorrow.
Once we're done, I'll just tell her.
Thank you.
Thank you. If there's nothing else, we will stand adjourned until tomorrow morning. The session will start at 9:30.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll stand adjourned.
All rise.
Okay, so it looks like they're going to start early, a half hour before the jury arrives, so that they can argue outside of the jury, and we'll make sure that the alarm gets set properly tomorrow. I think this chest cold seems to be affecting me, so I guess I didn't set the alarm properly, but I'll do that right now. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a great day. And, let's take a quick look over at if there is anything still live on Harmony Montgomery. Just a sec. I mean, not Harmony, but Audrii. looks like there's an update coming up. Doesn't specify exactly when. Oh, this one from a local station looks like it's supposed to start 4 minutes ago. News Nation is set to go in 2 minutes, so well, maybe we'll just stay put. Let's see. Let's go for the News Nation. Where is it? Okay, it says we've got a minute to go, so I guess we'll just stay put. So young. I'd still like to know more about the details about the last minute witness who came forward Friday in Harmony Montgomery's case. There was speculation that might be able to lead into the body, but the state rested today. So I don't know if this person testified. I don't see anything about it. So I take it that he didn't, but it would be very interesting if they found the body of Harmony after they rested, but I don't know. Yeah, I don't think you can open the case once you've rested. So I haven't had a chance to follow the Audrii Cunningham case much. Kind of been in a contemplative mood since my brother died, and I was reading an article, and boy, the guy sounds like bad news. It's unfortunate that the family allowed the guy to live in a trailer or camper or whatever on the property, because she would still be alive otherwise. We had a case like that here locally 20 years ago, come this summer. I was involved in the search for that little missing girl. Destiny Norton, little girl, must have been 4 or maybe 5 years old, went to play in the backyard and disappeared. And it was a shared backyard with another house that was in the backyard, and it turned out that the guy who lived in the other house grabbed her and killed her, desecrated the corpse, hid her in a plastic tub in the basement. And when they finally arrested him, my neighbor had been working at the search center because she was friends with Destiny's grandmother. And he had been coming in and out of the search center trying to get information on the case. He would come in, sign up to go on a search party, and, 30 minutes later, he'd be back, and there wasn't time enough for his search party to have arrived and done their search. And so he drew some notice then. And I think he took a plea deal to avoid the death penalty. And you gotta watch out who the neighbors are. A sound check. I'm surprised News Nation isn't up. Let's see. You go to the CBS feed, I suppose. They were live, but they might just be showing the screen. Let's take a look. Here's the CBS feed. Nope.
Time me and you was introduced.
You keep your head held high, just like Mom taught us.
You got to stand up.
All I had was my sister. Someday we're gonna meet again. We need to look like we belong.
Time for you to see the world.
Drinks on the house! The Color Purple, now streaming exclusively on Max.
Okay, it's not giving me the... Oh, there we go, full screen. Here we go. They look very somber.
Good afternoon. Thank you for being here today. I want to first start by thanking and to the community members who have been here supporting us since day one. I also want to say thank you to Trinity River Authority for lowering the water levels so that the divers could reach areas of interest. At this time, I sadly announced that Audrii's body was located at the Trinity River on the US Highway 59. As a result of today's developments, I will discontinue the Amber Alert for Audrii, and I want to thank DPS, Department of Public Safety, for all their help in this alert. The information that we have gathered in this criminal investigation is substantial. The Polk County Sheriff's Office investigators, the Livingston Police Department, and the Texas Rangers, the game wardens, the FBI, Harris County Sheriff's Office, the San Jacinto County Sheriff's Office, the District Attorney's Office in Trinity County and Liberty County. It's just an outpouring of love from all of our law enforcement partners. My heart aches with this news, and I express with my deepest sympathies and condolences to everyone who knew, who cared for, and loved Audrii. The Sheriff's Office, we will continue to process the evidence that has been gathered to ensure that the justice for Audrii. And at this time, I will turn the podium over to the Polk County District Attorney, Ms. Shelley Sinton.
Thank you, Byron. My name is Shelley Sitton, and I am your Polk County District Attorney. I just want to take a few moments to explain how we're going to move forward from here. Based on all of the evidence that law enforcement has collected, they are in the process of preparing the appropriate arrest warrants for Don Stephen McDougal. At this time, we believe the appropriate arrest warrant is going to be for capital murder in the death of Audrii Cunningham. He is currently still in jail under an unrelated felony charge here. I understand that this is a very difficult time for Audrii's family and for our community. The substantial law enforcement resources that were marshaled by the Sheriff Lyons, I think should show you that this county and law enforcement, they will come out when they need to protect our children. And the assets that we have been made available to Polk County to protect our children have been substantial. And at this point, as Sheriff Lyons said, he'll continue to collect the evidence and process that. The district attorney's office is going to stand right beside them and follow through. And we promise that you can assure that the district attorney's office will be just as dedicated to this case as every one of these law enforcement officers that are standing behind you to do what is right for Audrii and bring justice to our community. Thank you. At this time, if you've got some questions, we'll open it up to a few questions.
Any indication of how Audrii was killed?
I cannot speak to that.
At this time right now, we have transported Audrii down to the Harris County Medical Examiner's Office. At that time, we will await their results to be able to determine the cause and method of her death.
Evidence suggests murder.
We believe that there is enough evidence, yes.
Yes.
Did Don Stephen McDougal lead you to that location on the river where you found her body? Did he tell you where to find her?
That was evidence that we was collecting through the cell phone analysis, as well as through our videos that we were able to collect, and some of the information that we received from him, we were able to pinpoint and set. There were several points of interest that was turned over to us, so that we were able to develop. And thank goodness, and by the grace of God, one of those places of interest we were able to locate.
As I understand it.
What evidence links McDougal to the murder?
Evidence and right now, folks, when we start talking about how we linking evidence to McDougal and linking evidence to this case, we want to be very careful on how we do that. I will feel safe to say this is that there is substantial evidence through the evidence that we've gathered, and some of that evidence was even gathered by the wonderful witnesses and wonderful folks out there in the social media who sent us videos, who sent us pictures. Some of that, even that evidence helped us to be able to come up with these locations, as well as the evidence from cell phones and as videos to pinpoint these locations.
Can you tell us the condition of the 11-year-old's body and if she was dressed?
At this point right now, until we get all our information back from the medical examiner's office, we don't want to release any information concerning Audrii and condition of her body.
Sheriff, what directed you to that portion of I-59 and the Trinity River? What directed you to that area of I-59 and the Trinity River?
That area is one of the first areas of our concern points of interest when we started our search on Friday, or midday Friday. And again, that's going to be developed from some of the evidence. And then, yes, there was some points where he did give information, because there were several places that he said that he had went. So it wasn't a location where he said he took her, but there was a incidents where he said these were locations where he had gone.
Without this evidence that you talk about, would you have been able to find her where you found her? Without the evidence that you just described?
Yes.
You would have found her there?
We would have found her not through him, but we would have found it through the evidence that we collected from the analysis from phones and videos would have, yes.
Was she visible to the naked eye?
You used a sonar boat. Texas EquiSearch was out with their sonar boat scanning the bottom of the river for her body. They are the ones that discovered the body, is that correct?
No.
The image?
I'm not going to say who exactly or what agency discovered her body today. I will say this, that due to the lowering, we were able to contact TRA, Trinity River Authority. They slowed down the outflow from the reservoir, and it allowed the water to go down, and her body was discovered there in the water. But I'm not going to say whether it was Harris County or Montgomery County or EquiSearch. It was a conglomeration of a lot of love and law enforcement networking together that helped discover her.
Sources have told us, though, that Stephen McDougal was the one that told you to lower the level of the river. We've been told that he actually told you to lower the water on the river. Is that true?
We talked to TRA on several occasions about lowering it when they got to the point, or they felt they were safe to start lowering the river. We were able to get them to do so. Whether or not Mr. McDougal gave us information on lowering the river or not to be able to locate her, that's information that we do not want to release at this time.
One more question. One more question.
Is there any evidence that
Yep, he did advise that was one of the locations that he had gone. Not that it was saying that she was there or any other location, but we know that he went there as well.
Until we get all of the evidence and all the autopsy reports, we're going to have to hold and work with law enforcement to determine what is the best solution to this case. If the evidence supports that, that is something that we're going to look into.
Is there any evidence she was held somewhere else, or was she killed pretty much the day that she disappeared?
We do not have any evidence at this time that's showing that where she may have been held somewhere else. But again, we are still processing mounds and mounds of information and data. Mr. Bob, last question.
Is there any evidence that there was anything used to keep the body underwater?
That is information at this time that we do not want to release.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you all for your questions. Thank you all for all that you've done for us to help bringing Audrii home.
Heartbreaking information there from the sheriff of Polk County. Audrii Cunningham's body has been found. He's saying that his heart aches along with everybody in that community, all of us, giving his condolences to the family. Body found at the Trinity River at Highway 59, and the sheriff saying that they're working to get justice for Audrii.
And in the wake of this news, the Polk County DA saying warrants have been issued for Don Stephen McDougal. He will be charged with capital murder in Audrii's death. He was a person of interest very early on in this case. He does have a criminal history. And in fact, he is in jail right now on an unrelated felony charge.
Such a tragedy.
Okay, well, it sounds to me like, he assaulted another girl 17 years ago. He's in jail on unrelated charges. Sounds like he's a career criminal. Lock him up, throw away the key, maybe give him the death penalty because, there's it doesn't sound to me like there's any hope of redeeming him. Okay, well, not to torture us any further with my laryngitis voice, we'll go ahead and wrap this up, and I think we'll try to go for an earlier start time tomorrow. So we'll see you back tomorrow for the state concluding their case and the defense's obligatory motion to dismiss the case, or rather a motion for a directed verdict of not guilty based on the state not proving their case. The motion will be denied, and the defense will start their case. So it'll be interesting to see what angle and so forth they take. We already know from the expert witness that they wanted to call that they're going to argue that her memory was affected by stress or whatever, and so she made inconsistent statements that made her look guilty based on extenuating circumstances. And I don't see that flying as a case, because we would have that claimed all over the place if that were really a viable defense. So until tomorrow, we'll catch you later. Bye-bye.